Here we are, guys, in part 41 of this story. In the land of waves, our favorite blonde encounters the Kyuubi. Watch the subsequent events unfold as Naruto uses the power that was sealed inside of him on the day of his birth. Please remember to like, subscribe, and share with your friends. Now, let's begin. Good job today, Naruto. Sakura cheered as she gave Naruto a proud pat on the back. Oog, I never want to set foot in there again. The blonde Jinchuriki groaned as he and his pink-haired teammate left the hospital late one afternoon. All the rules, and procedures, not to mention you still have to eat the food. You can't go out for lunch or snack. I swear Sakura-kun, I don't know how you do it. After Hyuga Fakuro's seal had been removed, and Hiyashi had the new seal placed on himself, it didn't take long before the elders knew what was happening regarding their precious caged bird seal. But, despite keeping it secret for so many years, the intended removal of the caged bird seal, the cat was now out of the bag about Neji's seal being removed, and the elders were panicking. Both for concern that the Byakugan could now be lost to an enemy clan, and the fact that they were losing their grip on power over the entirety of the clan. Hiyashi had bore the new seal for nearly a week, placed on the back of his head, in the very location of the Byakugan's lone blind spot. And it was here the seal could be covered by hair and hidden from the eyes of the public. No longer would Hyugas have to walk around, deciding between covering their forehead up or bearing that shameful disgrace for a seal. While it was true that there was no guarantee that the seal would work, at least not until someone who bore it actually died, Hiyashi had faith in the expertise of his master and sibling student. He had to, for now the dies were cast, and Hiyashi was doing what he could to keep the remaining two Hyuga main branch families at bay. They demanded Hiyashi cease the removal of the caged bird seal, but if there was anything Hiyashi was holding his ground on, it was this. And that brings us back to Naruto. The poor Uzumaki groaned as he had spent the last 2 days straight at the hospital while he and Sakura worked to unseal and reseal as many Hyugas as Hiyashi could give them. And that equated to nearly 30% of the branch family having received the new seal, including all of the younger Hyugas and children. Naruto let out another groan, this time from his stomach. Sakura-chan, can you buy the ramen tonight? I may be tired as well, but that doesn't mean I'm stupid, Sakura shot back at Naruto's attempt to get into her purse. Last time someone treated you to ramen, you nearly bankrupted poor Shizune-san. Oog, fine, Naruto sighed as he turned into Ichiraku's. Looks like it was only going to be his usual 10 bowls tonight, and not an all-you-can-eat smorgasbord. Naruto let out a big yawn, his only desire now was a good night's sleep as he climbed the stairs to his apartment, his belly full of ramen. Why goodness. Coming to the hall though, something wasn't quite right. His shinobi senses were alerting Naruto that there was someone inside his apartment. Kunai out, Naruto snuck around, through the windowed balcony, only to be greeted by the sound of snoring coming from his couch. Yup, someone who wasn't him was in there, and they had bypassed the security seals somehow. Apart from him, the only others who could pass them were Hinata, Sakura, Sasuke, Kakashi, Tsunade, Karen, and Jiraiya. And only the last of them could potentially snore like the bear in his room. Yet, Naruto knew Jiraiya was presently out of the village, checking in with a part of his network that had some intel regarding Akatsuki. So whoever this was, to be able to get through an Uzumaki seal, this person was dangerous. And as Naruto carefully made his way into the apartment, trying not to startle the intruder and get a jump on him, but as the blonde tenant had his kunai at the ready, it seemed the sleeping person wasn't going to be taken advantage of just like that. And two metal blades clanged in the dark. Who do you think you are, thief? Resorting to the cowardice of shadows and sneaking into this place. Thief? You're the one who broke into my place, Naruto shouted back before taking a moment to realize something. He knew that voice as he felt for a light switch. Hiro? Cousin? Needless to say, Naruto wasn't in much of a talking mood that night. How Hiro had managed to bypass the seals. Well, he trusted his cousin enough to let it wait until morning. Well, I'd arrived and was searching everywhere for you, but you were nowhere to be found yesterday, Hiro stated over breakfast. So, I asked a few people around town where you were and they said you lived here. Hiro was interrupted by a loud knocking on the door before the door to Naruto's apartment flew off its hinges, revealing a sleep-deprived Karen. How loud do you snore? I could have sworn I made those silent seals strong enough, but what the hell? Karen fumed, and the irritation and lack of sleep was evident by the bags under her eyes. Apparently, the combined snoring of both Hiro and Naruto had a sort of resonance effect that broke through Karen's seals and kept the poor Uzumaki girl from sleeping. Hey cousin, Who's she? Hiro asked. Huh? Oh, that's right, you two haven't met, have you? Naruto realized. Karen Nichan here's my cousin as well, one of us. I see it in the hair, and the temper, Hiro joked. Yeah, well right now I don't give a crap if you are the Rikudo Sennin incarnate. Keep it down. Naruto just sweat dropped as Karen stormed back to her room so that she could continue her dreams about Sasuke and such. Anyways, spill it, how'd you break my seals last night? Naruto asked Hiro. I know I was preoccupied at the hospital, but that shouldn't have stopped me from sensing them being activated. You hacked them. Now I wouldn't be an Uzumaki if I couldn't, Hiro smiled. Gotta say, not really your best work. Yeah, well, I made those years ago and the only ones who could hack them, I've already given access to, Naruto stated. Anyways, if you're here. Kaori's still young, so Keiko Obasan can travel too fast and for too long at the same time, not to mention Jisama's guard and everything. They sent me on ahead. They'll be here by either tonight, or tomorrow morning, just in time to celebrate. Hiro smiled. And speaking of celebrations. No, Tsunade shouted, slamming her fist down on the desk, and causing both Sakura and Hinata to flinch. As much as I want to give the Gaki a party, after just how overboard Sasuke's went, I can't allow you to throw one where property damage will likely be more than one city block. Everyone in the room just sweat dropped at that statement. Tsunade had a point. That drunken fist fight between Lee and Sasuke had been a major source of Tsunade's drinking problems for the week following. Was this what their group was going to become known for? The mass destruction of Konoha's entertainment establishments? Wait, isn't there a park on top of the Hokage's monument? Sakura asked after considering options. It's not in the middle of the city and it's isolated enough from most building that we should be safe, right? I suppose the monument park could work, Tsunade mused as Sakura's and Hinata's faces lit up. Just, Hinata, I think I can trust you to keep Naruto and his guests in check. Guests? Sakura asked. The remnants of the Uzumaki clan from the Land of Iron, Tsunade said. Including Mifune Dono himself. So, all in all, Mifune, his wife, their children Nobu and Keiko and their spouses, and then the most recent generation of Iron Uzumakis, Hiro, Akira, and Kaori, plus the half-dozen or so samurai who've been assigned to guard Mifune while he's traveling. Wow, I knew Naruto said he had family up in the Land of Iron, but to think he's connected like that, Sakura mused impressed. I know, Tsunade smiled innocently evilly. I can't wait to see the look on those counselors' faces the day after tomorrow. Jiraiya, Kazashi, Hiyashi, and a few others who are in the know have bets going on. So, Dad knows about who Naruto is? Sakura asked. Most of the Shinobi Council, especially if they've served personally with Minato, have seemed to connect the dots, Tsunade said. Now, go on, the monument park's yours for the party. Tsunade-sama, Hinata turned before exiting. Do you think Hanabi's team will return by then? She was really looking forward to celebrating Naruto-kun's birthday as well. I just received word from Anko this morning by Messenger Hawk, Tsunade said. They're just tying up a few loose ends, but should be back either tomorrow evening, or the morning of the 10th. Just a routine bandit deterrent mission in the north of the Land of Fire. Let's go, Hinata, Sakura chirped. Besides, we've still gotta get your present for him figured out. PPP present? Hinata stuttered, turning red at the same time as thoughts of her present to Naruto came to mind as Sakura pulled her from the office to go shopping. Just as Tsunade turned to focus on the work at hand, another knock came on her door and a man stepped in, bearing a briefcase. Can I help you with something? Tsunade asked the man. If he was here, then that meant he had a reason to see her and would have cleared the initial reception in the lobby of the building. Yes, Tsunade-sama. I'm from the Konoha Lottery Department, the man said, placing a briefcase and a small stack of papers on top of it on Tsunade's desk. Well, I'm pleased to announce that the winner of last night's lottery drawing is none other than you. Now if you'll just sign here, the 10,000,000 Rio will be yours, minus taxes of course. Tsunade was a little stupefied as she looked over the documents. Everything was certainly official and appropriate as she signed to collect her winnings and the man from the lottery just bowed and left. Tsunade-sama? Shizune asked. Even she knew what this meant. I seriously hope this doesn't mean those kids are going to go overboard and do something like break Ramp's head from the very cliff, and send it hurtling down to crush the village beneath. Because if it is, please make sure I'm there. just to put me out of my misery and save me from the nightmare of paperwork that I know will follow. Tsunade groaned as she dreaded the incoming storm for whatever party shenanigan those kids had in store this time. So this is the famed Ichiraku ramen you're always raving about, Hiro smiled as he sniffed the aroma coming from within the restaurant. Smells good, that's for sure. Yeah, and Tuchi-Oji-san has a few special recipes he's been perfecting, rescued from Uzushiogakuer. Naruto grinned and Hiro's face lit up. So the rumors were true then, the great recipes of old are back then, Hiro drooled uncontrollably. Old man. Hope your broth's boiling and the noodles are noodling, Naruto shouted as he and Hiro entered. Who are you calling old? Tuchi shouted back before turning to see Naruto, simply just laughing in the end. So, who's your friend? Old man Tuchi, this is Hiro, Naruto introduced. Uzumaki Hiro, at your service, Hiro stated. My cousin says you serve the finest ramen in all the land of fire. Well, I said the entire world. Naruto muttered and Tuchi just laughed. So, you're another of Naruto's family he told me about from the land of iron then, Tuchi said. Ayame, get on the noodles. And if one looked close enough, you could see Tuchi's money Ido jutsu activated as the thought of two people with Uzumaki stomachs was promising him a pretty payday. Hinata blushed deeply as she held up in front of her the results of her present shopping with Sakura. There was just so little there. Could she actually go through with wearing something that revealing? Even if it was just for Naruto, and Naruto's eyes alone? Mustering the courage to do so, and in the privacy of her own room, Hinata slipped out of her training clothes and decided to give Naruto's present a little test drive as she slipped the lingerie onto her curvy and shaped body. It certainly made certain parts on her body pop and Hinata did everything in her power to stop herself from going beet red to unconscious as she tried to mentally envision herself with Naruto, wearing this and only this in just a few quick days. The Hyuga were very much considered a noble clan, and in many cases, women were expected to remain pure until marriage. But then again, the Hyuga were a shinobi clan, and while they tended to avoid anything that dealt with sexuality, bodywork, or seduction, the facts were that they were shinobi. And shinobi had to be prepared for anything. There was zero guarantee an active kunoichi could remain pure. And so, while there was a certain expectation that had been set, said expectation had been deteriorating over the years. Besides, Naruto was the one she wanted to give herself to. It wasn't like she just met Naruto last week. No, they'd been together for nearly 5 years, although 3 of those were spent apart. And the whole pure until marriage thing? It only applied if she knew there was a possibility of her being married off in a political fashion to someone who expected a virgin bride. But Naruto? Well, the thought of marrying Naruto first of all was dangerous, for there were few things that could still bring her to the verge of fainting, and marriage was one such thing. And what she was planning and envisioning for her and Naruto to do in the coming days, that was definitely another one that she'd have to get over sooner, rather than later. Hinata? Yep. Hinata eeped as she heard her father call for her outside of her room, followed by a knock. DDD.com Ian, Hinata called out. I'm NN not DD decent. IWW wanted to be bathed after TT training. I see. Hinata heard Hiyashi say from the other side of the door. Well, afternoon tea will be ready in 10 minutes, so try not to take too long or it'll get cold. Hinata let out a long-held breath as she heard her father's footsteps leave. She most certainly needed a bath now, based on the amount she was sweating back there. Even though there was a wall, and that wall was equipped with a special seal that blocked all but the most focused Byakugan, the fact that she was talking to her father while dressed in the lingerie which served to cover barely anything, she was definitely feeling lightheaded right now. Speaking of lingerie and dressing up, Sakura had also scored a few pieces which she was hoping to strut in front of Sasuke. Yet, unlike Hinata, Sakura didn't have much problem trying out the bedroom looks. In fact, she was giggling and blushing, very much like how a young girl would in this situation. She'd missed her chance, back on Sasuke's birthday. Her plan was to make Sasuke hers that night and put an end to any false claim those silly fangirls think they might have, but sadly Toad Broodsaike had other plans for the night and said man of her desires found himself strung up on the Hokage monument, following a drunken brawl that leveled 2 city blocks. And then there was their mission to take Naruto to Uzushiogakuer, and the subsequent rescue of Yugito and Sasuke defeating his brother. However, after that day, the Uchiha seemed to lose interest in anything deemed romantic while his mind tried to digest the death of Itachi and fulfillment of his goal, not to mention Naruto's crazy fangirl of a cousin constantly co-blocking any advances she tried to make. Still, some time had passed, and Sasuke was beginning to warm up to her advances and company again. Perhaps it was time to try again. Weather was moving in late afternoon on October 9th, the village hidden in the leaves in the storm's crosshairs. It sounded like the storm was going to pass through in the hours of the night, and the village was praying it'd do just that. However, the prospect of a little rain didn't deter some people. "Not bad, cousin," Hiro grinned as he stared down his opponent with his blade. Across from him stood Naruto, wielding a pair of the tri-pronged kunai as the two were having a quick spar before meeting up with the rest of the family for dinner on the eve of the Uzumaki clan's resurrection. Sitting off to the side, underneath a nearby tree, was Karen as she watched the two Uzumaki boys go at one another. She couldn't begin to believe the speed and skill at which they were fighting. In the past months, she went from being the only Uzumaki to meeting 8 others which she could call family. And as Naruto and Hiro disengaged again, Karen looked over to see another woman, this one bearing the same red hair as her, approach the training ground. "Hiro, Naruto, Kusama sent me to tell you that he has dinner reservations at 6:30, Keiko called out. "Thanks Keiko Obasan." Hiro waved as he and Naruto readied themselves for another bout, while the red-haired woman took a seat nearby Karen. "It's good to see that Okasama and my children aren't the last with our family's trademark red hair," smiled Keiko. Both Hiro and his father, Nobu, they got their looks from Matsama. It's always funny seeing the three of them dejected by the fact that they didn't get the Uzumaki hair. "It sure is surreal," Karen mused. "Just months ago, I thought I was it. I would never have believed that you existed, or Niikan there was my cousin, let alone the future of our clan?" Keiko asked. It sure surprised us as well when he turned up in the Land of Iron with Master Jiraiya, looking for Kenjutsu training. There was a small period of time when my mother thought she was the only one who'd made it out of Ozoshigakure safely, until she learned that Kushina had survived as well, plus that Mito-sama had already been in Konoha. From everything she told me, our clan valued family above all else. While we may be small, and still scattered, it's reassuring to know that there's still someone out there you can call family. Before Karen had a chance to respond to that, or really even a chance to digest the words, her sensing ability picked up something odd as she stood up and walked in the direction of this chakra. "Nichan?" Naruto shouted as Karen nearly walked through the middle of his spar with Hiro, her gaze and attention fixated elsewhere as she proceeded to the tree line and peeled back the bushes, to reveal what appeared to be a panting snake, about the size of a large boa. "You must help," the snake spoke, and immediately Karen was broken out of her fixation as she jumped back, screaming. A talking snake. The only talking snakes she knew were Orochimaru's summons, and the snake Sannin was the last person she wanted to see right now. "Hold on, Nichan," Naruto said, preventing Karen from flattening the exhausted snake with a large club-like branch she'd found. This didn't feel like one of Orochimaru's summons. And the fact that it had a Konoha headband around its neck. "You're one of Anko's summons, am I right?" "I am," the snake acknowledged. "I must deliver a message to Hokage-sama from Anko-sama. Orochimaru-sama, he attacked Anko-sama and her team. One dead, the rest, he took back with him." Naruto's eyes shot open in horror. Anko's team, deployed on a simple bandit control mission in the northern reaches of the Land of Fire a few days ago, meant Hanabi-chan. And with a speed that would make one believe the second coming of the Yellow Flash had arrived, Naruto picked up the snake's summon and bolted towards the tower. Immediately, his mind was fixated on one thing, Hanabi. The snake had mentioned that one of Anko's team was dead, and the others taken back into whichever hole he'd slithered out from. Was Hanabi still alive? And what horrors was she now facing at the hands of Orochimaru? Should he tell Hinata? Hiroshi? No, his mind had already decided. It would only cause them undue stress. Bakken was first. He'd talk to Bakken about this, and he'd bear the burden of Hanabi's fate himself. But plans never work out the way one wants. As Naruto arrived, bounding through the window of Tsunade's office, he came face to face with the last thing he wanted to see, Hinata's teared-up face. "Orochimaru, he's got Hanabi-chan," Hinata sobbed as she gripped in her arms, a small white tiger. Of course, Naruto mentally smacked himself. Hinata and Hanabi have the same summoning contract. They can get in touch with one another through their summons. Kind of like me and Urosenin. There was going to be no hiding this from Hinata. "Bakken?" Naruto placed the snake on Tsunade's desk for the snake to relay what Hanabi's tiger had as well. "Can we confirm that they're still alive?" Tsunade asked. "Orochimaru-sama killed one, A young male, I believe, the snake spoke. Hanabi-sama's tied to our contract. If she were to die, we'd surely know, the tiger spoke. I was aiding Hanabi-sama and trying to escape but was dispelled by an attack as she was captured. I must apologize for I was out for a day, and thus unable to warn Hinata-sama. It is stain against my honor that I could have allowed something to happen to Hanabi-sama under my watch. Don't worry, Hinata-chan, Naruto declared. I'll go and find Hanabi-chan right away, T-by-o. Tsunade let out a deep sigh as she tried to take in everything. While she didn't trust the snakes all that well, the white tigers were a different story. If this one was stating that her former teammate had taken some of her shinobi captive, then she was inclined to believe him. And as Naruto tried to gauge Tsunade's reaction, almost expecting for her to admonish and scold him for suggesting the idea of him going after Orochimaru, the Hokage spoke. Kakashi, Jiraiya, maybe Guy, maybe Yamato, maybe Zabuza. Tsunade sighed. The list of shinobi besides myself that I believe would even stand a chance of survival against Orochimaru is short. And then Tsunade looked up at Naruto. Not only was Naruto proving himself a skilled shinobi, but he had Kurama on his side. And even she doubted Orochimaru would fare well against that giant powerhouse of chakra. Who else? According to Jiraiya, it sounded like Orochimaru didn't fare too well against Itachi's Sharingan. Sasuke? Tsunade-sama, if you're going to send a team, then I request that I be included on the recovery team. Both Tsunade and Naruto grew silent as the request came from Hinata. Even if Hinata had proven herself a skilled kunoichi, Orochimaru was well out of her league. Hinata-chan. You can't, Naruto gasped. Hanabi's my sister. I don't care if I have to face Orochimaru. But I must bring her home, Hinata declared. But this is Orochimaru. Naruto argued. I almost lost you a few weeks ago, I'm not going to. Naruto. Tsunade shouted. But, Bakken. Naruto replied. You can't be thinking. I'm not sure yet, Tsunade said. The simple fact remains is that any team I send, will come face to face with that snake. And that team needs to be able to accomplish its mission of bringing our comrades back. Answer me this, because the slugs can do it to an extent, can the white tigers track their summoners? I cannot, but there are some of us who can, Hinata's tiger spoke. Damn. Tsunade swore, taking a look at the map in the area where she sent them. It was in the northern reaches of the Land of Fire, near the border with the Land of Rice, and it was there where Jiraiya believed Orochimaru to have established his main base of operation, Otogakure. How could she have overlooked that? Naruto, Tsunade snapped. Go get your team, Sasuke and Sakura. Tell them to meet at the gate in 30 minutes. Hokage-sama? Hinata asked, and both she and Naruto were waiting for Tsunade's decision. I'll be honest, Hinata, Tsunade sighed. I don't want to send you. Infiltrating one of Orochimaru's lesser bases is one thing, but I expect you to come across my old teammate this time. Do I think you stand a chance against him? No. But I can't dismiss your skills as a tracker. It'll take me at least 2 days to recall Kakashi and Guy to form an adequate backup squad. You four will be on your own until then, 2 more days at the hands of Orochimaru. I wouldn't even wish that fate on the ones who killed Dan and Nawaki. The sooner you can find them and get them out of there, the better. Now go, time is not on our side right now. Naruto sighed, wanting to argue as he looked over at Hinata. She was as resolved as ever on this as she turned to go and prepared herself. And Naruto was certain she wasn't that happy with him objecting her coming along. He could get that, but it was because he cared for her and didn't want her to get killed, or worse. Naruto, Tsunade called out to the blonde before he could leave. Leave me with a messenger toad, will you? With this, I need Jiraiya back ASAP. He'll be a part of your relief squad. Hinata arrived quietly back at the Hyuga clan complex, quietly making her way to her room in order to pack. Ideally, she wouldn't tell her father. No, he'd find out. Eventually of course, but hopefully by the time he did, she'd have gotten Hanabi out of that snake's clutches. And as quick as she came, she left, unnoticed by those who would have questioned her being there. One of Naruto's clones had finally spotted Sasuke and Sakura, walking through one of the streets in the direction of what seemed to be the Uchiha compound. Naruto? Sakura questioned as Naruto landed in front of them. Boss says there's an emergency mission that came up, Naruto said as both Sasuke and Sakura looked irritated. And the way Sakura was clinging to Sasuke, well, it didn't take Jiraiya to figure out what was going on here. I'm sorry, but Anko's team and Hanabi were taken by Orochimaru. Sakura gasped at that, and even Sasuke looked shocked, Slightly. And, Hinata? Sakura was afraid to ask how Hinata was handling it. She'll be coming with us, Naruto stated. Can't say boss was too happy with that call, but we'll need Hinata as a tracker. So, I take it then. Sasuke spoke, a glint gleaming in his red eyes. Yeah, Naruto said. Be ready for the snake. Not even 30 minutes had passed by the time Naruto, Sasuke, Sakura, and Hinata were by the gate with Tsunade, Shizune, Sakura's parents, and the Uzumakas from the Land of Iron. I'm sorry, Sensei, everyone, Naruto apologized, turning to his family. We were supposed to celebrate non-stop starting tomorrow, and yet, here I am running off. I won't be back for a few days. Naruto, we understand with what Karen-chan and Tsunade Dono has informed me, Mifune said, silencing Naruto and motioning to his son. In fact, I'd be lying if I said I wouldn't be disappointed if you didn't go. Nobu arrived with a long and thin package, wrapped in cloth, and handed it to his father. And as Mifune unraveled the cloth, Naruto caught a glimpse of what was beneath it. When you wrote to me about your encounter with EB, and the fate that befell my master's sword, my son and I went straight to work on this, Mifune said, handing the blade to Naruto. It may not have been forged in Ozoshiogakuer, but both my son and I put every fiber of our being and every ounce of our knowledge into crafting this. Forged in the Land of Iron, yet done so in the stylings of the Uzumaki, I hope it serves you well in your battles to come. Thank you, Sensei, Naruto bowed, taking and affixing the blade to his belt. Uzumaki Naruto, Uchiha Sasuke, Haruno Sakura, Hyuga Hinata. Tsunade called out, and as the four of them assembled, Naruto took one last look around, noticing a notable absence of someone. He doesn't know, does he? Naruto asked quietly over to Hinata. No. Hinata spoke. I didn't know how to tell him. So, I'll tell him by bringing Hanabi back. Just recently, we received word that Orochimaru kidnapped a few of our shinobi, Mitarashi Anko, Narutoshi, Shiku's Academy, and Hyuga Hanabi. We have reason to believe that some members of the team are alive and are captives of Orochimaru. Recent intel suggests Orochimaru established a stronghold somewhere in the Land of Rice, near the site of operation for Team Anko. It makes sense that this is where he'd taken them. I am assigning the four of you an S-rank mission to rescue what remains of Team Anko. Confrontation with Orochimaru is expected. And if we encounter Orochimaru? Naruto asked sternly. Just. Tsunade paused for a moment. Just make sure the four of you return alive. Tsunade sat, staring out of her window into the gray abyss that had blanketed Konoha. 3 hours ago, she'd seen the rescue squad of Naruto, Sasuke, Hinata, and Sakura off, and she'd sent the summons for an appropriate retrieval team. And in the period of those 3 hours, the heavens above continued to rain on her parade. If there was one thing she could bet on, it was that she wasn't going to be getting any sleep until they returned, and that was likely days away. Even the chaos downstairs, the rampaging bull charging his way through the Hokage Tower, didn't break Tsunade from her stupor. Hyuga-sama. Tsunade's door flew open and a certain Hyuga patriarch barged through, dragging an entire squad of Anbu who were stupid enough to get in his way. Tsunade, Hiyashi growled, and Tsunade turned to face the raging father, catching a glimpse of the sorry heap of Anbu behind him, waving them off as they slowly peeled themselves apart. Why wasn't I told? Tsunade breathed deeply. She'd expected Hinata to be the one to deliver the news on the way out, but obviously, that hadn't happened. And now, she was left dealing with the mess of an enraged Hiyashi. One of my daughters was taken. And you sent the other to go and rescue her, from Orochimaru. Hiyashi rarely expressed emotions, a result of decades of being a Hyuga. But it was clear he was pissed. Why wasn't I at least notified of this, consulted? I should be out there. Not Hinata. Tsunade took another breath as she thought up an answer, one she hoped would work, but knew wouldn't. Because, Hinata has something you don't, Tsunade stated. Both she and Hanabi are bound by the same summoning contract, and so they can be located by such. Orochimaru knows the ins and outs against Konoha. It is almost a certainty he's figured out how to hide or obscure himself from the Byakugan's gaze. Traditional methods of tracking won't work. Who else? Hiyashi stated. Who else is on Hinata's team? Who else did you send against Orochimaru? I think, you already know who, Tsunade said plainly. By the time Jiraiya, Kakashi, or Guy return to the village, it'll have been much later than I'd have hoped. Time was not on my side, and that is why I sent Hinata. Once Jiraiya, Kakashi, and Guy return, I'll have them dispatched immediately with Shizune acting as medical backup. But until then, it all rests in their hands." Hiyashi growled as he turned to leave the office. "Where are you going?" Tsunade barked. "I am not about to let not just one, but both of my children fall into the hands of that treacherous snake," Hiyashi declared, and Tsunade groaned. She knew Hiyashi was pissed. She did not blame him. But the last thing she needed was a second emotionally unstable Hyuga rushing off after Orochimaru. And as she made a signal, Hiyashi was surrounded by 6 Anbu. "Forgive me, Hiyashi," Tsunade stated. "Take Hyuga Hiyashi into protective custody." All of the sudden, after running the hardest 2 hours that they'd thought was possible, Naruto came to a dead halt. "Naruto?" Sakura was the first to notice as she came to a stop, followed by Sasuke, and finally Hinata, who was running harder than the rest, fueled by a desperate drive, and nearly blinded by a sort of tunnel vision. "What are you stopping for?" Sasuke asked. "The lands in the northern land of fire," Naruto spoke. "They're not very populated." "No, it's mostly mountainous with a few valleys and rivers winding their way through," Sakura spoke. "Why are we stopping?" Hinata asked as she finally realized that she was the only one rushing ahead. Naruto had never seen her like this before, this brash, this brazen, and so unaware of what else was going on. Her only focus, getting to Hanabi. And it took her a few moments to regain sense of what had happened to her group. "Just making sure." Naruto spoke. "There are no villages between here and the Valley of the End, right?" "No, not really," Sakura spoke. "Maybe a few outposts and homesteads, but why? We really need to be going." "Yeah, and I have a way to get us there quicker," Naruto stated as his chakra flared. "Sorry Kurama. I know you hate the rain and being used as a taxi, but desperate times call for desperate measures." And on spot, Naruto's form morphed into that of the giant Kyuubi. "Get on." And all 3 of them got the gist of what Naruto was getting at. Even at the speed they were traveling, to reach the Valley of the End would take a day's time. And time wasn't something they had right now. Kurama's form and speed however, that could get them to the Valley of the End in hours. "Hinata, I'm counting on you, don't let me step on anything like this," Naruto spoke as he took off, Sasuke, Sakura, and Hinata clinging onto the fur tightly, and Hinata's Byakugan guiding Naruto around any houses, buildings, and small villages along the way. And after hours of running through the storm and night, Naruto came to a skidding halt as they entered the canyon that was better known as the Valley of the End, the northern border of the Land of Fire with the Land of Rice. By now, it was dark and the rain was coming down heavy, but the 4 of them caught a glimpse of what this place was known for, the giant statues of Senju Hashirama and Uchiha Madara, through the flashes of lightning coming down from the storm above. "Let's find somewhere to rest for a while," Sasuke stated. "Yeah, this storm's getting worse the further north we go," Sakura added as they spotted a cave carved into the cliffside not too far away. "But, we're almost there," Hinata protested. But even Naruto was starting to feel tired, especially after having spent hours straight in Kurama form, running like the wind. "Hinata." "Yeah," even Naruto was getting a bit worried. "No, we're stopping to rest," Sakura put her foot down. "We'll get going first thing in the morning, once the storm passes. Besides, all we know is that Orochimaru is in the Land of Rice, but we don't know where," Sasuke said. "We could afford to be crude but quick up until now. But we'll need to be quiet and precise going forward." Hinata relented as the 4 of them held up for the night in the side of the cliffs, and Naruto went to work throwing up a quick sealing matrix to conceal their presence and act as a barrier. This would allow all of them to rest simultaneously, or at least try to. No one was really getting any sleep in the traditional sense, not with the impeding confrontation with Orochimaru coming up, but that didn't mean they couldn't rest up, something trained ninja could manage, to rest without sleeping that is. Hanabi-chan. Hinata was restless. And as she laid next to Naruto, even he realized it. At the rate she was going, she was pushing herself too much. Then again, he wasn't one to speak about pushing oneself. But still, if she kept going like this, she'd eventually break, and most likely at the worst time possible. Starting tomorrow, the snake hunt would be on, and everyone would have to be operating at 150%. Rest right now was key. And Naruto knew of only one way to do it. As he wrapped his arm around Hinata to comfort her, she leaned into him, but even Naruto could feel the tenseness in Hinata. And so, before she could even react, Naruto slapped a tag on Hinata's head, and the distressed Hyuga went limp and unconscious. "Thanks, Naruto," Sakura spoke easily. As a trained medic, she didn't have to be aware of just the team's physical state, but also their mental state. And Hinata was starting to concern her. "What is that?" Sasuke asked, pointing to the tag on Hinata's head. "Consciousness seal," Naruto stated. While it was normally used to pacify prisoners, the Uzumakis also used it to induce a state of sleep and relaxation in their own. Unfortunately, it only lasts for a few hours, this one anyways, but it'll be enough to let her get some rest. "Now get some rest yourself, Naruto," Sakura advised. "Yeah. And?" Sakura spoke carefully, not wanting to put this the wrong way. "I think it's safe to say we're past midnight, so happy birthday." "Thanks, Sakura-chan," Naruto said as he laid back into his bedding to rest and prepare for the coming day. Anyone still asleep in Konoha was awoken by a green freight train, breaking through the gates late the following morning as Guy barged straight through. Kakashi not far behind, both amazed and appalled at Guy's speed. Still, the message they'd received the previous afternoon had proved grim, and the two Jonin had sped through the night to Konoha. Abandoning their current mission at the order of the Hokage was not something Konoha Jonin prided themselves on, but this one was different. "I must say, Guy, your response time and haste getting here knows no bounds," Tsunade said. She had to give credit where credit was due. She thought it would take at least 2 days, or 48 hours for Guy, Kakashi, and Jiraiya to return and regroup. And here, Guy had pulled it off in less than half that time. Now if only your eternal rival could take a note of that. "Apologies, Hokage-sama," Kakashi said, arriving on Tsunade's windowsill, winded and out of breath from his attempts to keep up with Guy. Kakashi's habitual tardiness aside, the word Orochimaru was more than enough to actually get him to show up on time, or early and to keep pace with Guy of all people. "Now, all we need is..." Tsunade was cut off by a crashing sound, waking those in Konoha who still dared to sleep at this time. "Have no fear, Jiraiya is here," Jiraiya posed, hoping through a second of Tsunade's windows. "Antics aside, I have to thank the three of you for getting here so fast," Tsunade said desperately. "What's the situation, Haim?" Jiraiya asked. Tsunade took a breath. Even she had a restless night, but that was to be expected. The day before yesterday, Orochimaru ambushed Team Anko. Distress reached us in the form of Anko's and Hanabi's summons, yesterday late in the afternoon. From the messages received, I am afraid to say that we believe one member of Anko's Jinan squad to have been killed, and the remainder taken captive by Orochimaru. A team consisting of Uzumaki Naruto, Uchiha Sasuke, Haruno Sakura, and Hyuga Hinata were dispatched yesterday afternoon in an attempt to rescue Anko and her team. "Tsunade, you actually sent them," Jiraiya gasped. "I don't think I need to say that every minute in the grasp of Orochimaru is a minute too long. As we speak now, who knows what sort of sick experiments he's putting them through," Tsunade stated. "Do you doubt their abilities?" That question was specifically directed at Kakashi and Jiraiya. "Well, no." Jiraiya and Kakashi agreed, at least, not Sasuke's or Naruto's. And Tsunade was thinking along the same lines. Sakura was dispatched to serve as medical support for Anko's team. "And whomever else they may come across," Tsunade stated. "Hinata, honestly I didn't want to send her, but her tracking skills are needed, and there's the fact that she and Hanabi share a summoning contract. You all know what that means." Kakashi stated. Sibling summoners can use the summoning contract to pinpoint the other's location. "Still, to send just the 4 of Orochimaru's stronghold," Jiraiya said. "That's why I need the 3 of you and Shizune to head out an hour ago," Tsunade stated. "They're already 18 hours ahead of you. Even on Gamma Hero, it'll take 10 hours to reach the border," Jiraiya stated. Out of all the giant toad summons, Gamma Hero was the fastest. "Tsunade, how's Hiyashi handling this?" "About as well as expected," Tsunade sighed. "He barged into my office yesterday evening, and he's being detained for his own well-being. If both of his daughters make it back alive, I owe him the best sake I can find. And that's just a start." "Well, should we be going then?" Kakashi asked as the door to Tsunade's office opened and in stepped Shizune, garbed in her mission gear. "There will be one last team following you, a medical squad," Tsunade stated. "They'll meet you at the border on your return journey to provide further treatment should it be beyond anything Shizune or Sakura can provide in the field. Now get going." A few hours ago, Naruto, Sasuke, and Sakura were awake as the first rays of light beamed into the valley. The storm had passed, and while they didn't get a good night's sleep, it was enough to restore some much-needed energy as Naruto peeled the seal tag from Hinata's head and the young Hyuga began to stir. "Feeling better, Hinata?" Sakura asked. "Huh? Where?" Hinata asked as she took in where she was. Why was her memory completely blank after stopping last night? "Sorry, Hinata-chan," Naruto apologized. "But you're pushing yourself too hard." "Naruto's right," Sakura said. "We needed to knock you out as sort of a reset." "What time is it now?" Hinata asked. "No later than 6:30 in the morning," Sakura said. "We're just getting ready to head out now." "Once we go up that cliff, we're in the land of rice," Sasuke stated. "In other words, we are in Orochimaru's territory, enemy territory. Anyone bearing an Otogakure mark is an enemy and needs to be treated as such. But beyond that, the further we can remain undetected, the better our chances are of finding Anko and her team. We were likely able to get as close to the border on Naruto due to the storm's cover, but now that it's passed, we'll need to travel swiftly and quietly on food. And that's where you come in, Hinata." "Right," Hinata stated with a determination that would rival even that of Naruto's. "Hanabi, hold strong. I'll be there, soon." Kushio's no jutsu. As the puff of smoke cleared, a human-sized tiger appeared where Hinata had summoned it. "Are you ready, Hinata-sama?" The tiger spoke. "I am, Hanta," Hinata replied. "Can you find Hanabi?" "I can sense her, even from here," Hanta replied. "As such, I can deduce that she still lives. However, my senses only give me a general idea of the area she's in." "That'll be fine," Hinata spoke. "My Byakugan can take us from there." "Indeed," Hanta grinned. "And now, the hunt is on." Hanta took off, up the cliffside with Hinata, Naruto, Sasuke, and Sakura closely behind. "I thought I should let you know that Jiraiya, Kakashi, Guy, and Shizune left just a few moments ago," Tsunade said while she was downstairs of the Tande department in their holding area. It wasn't the bad holding area, just the initial holding area where they kept those accused of minor crimes, such as bulldozing one's way to the Hokage's office. "You know I'm only doing this for your own good, Hiyashi? Once they've returned, you'll be free to go. I'll even overlook any charge that would be levied against you for such an act. If you think that'll suffice as an apology for not telling me about my daughter being taken by that bastard, or letting my other daughter go without even consulting with me in the first place, then you've got some work cut out for you," Hiyashi stated as he sat calmly in the holding cell and Tsunade took a seat on the opposite side of the cage. "No, you're right," Tsunade said. "It won't be my proudest moment, keeping the information from you like that, but what is done is done. I suppose all that's left now, is to have faith in them," Hiyashi replied. "And do you?" Tsunade asked. "Without a doubt," Hiyashi replied. "If anyone can pull this off, it's them," Tsunade stated. "You'll remain here for the time being, it's best neither of us does anything else stupid right now. I told Sakura to keep me in contact via Katsuyu. Once they have them, I'll let you know, and I really am sorry for this." "Bleg," Naruto spat as they sped through the trees in the land of rice. "Stupid spiders." "Naruto-kun, Sasuke-san," Hinata spoke, her eyes picking up something more than just spiders. "Right." Sasuke spoke. He sensed it too. "Company," Naruto grinned. Hinata had been taking the front, and so as they'd been traveling through the trees, Hinata was taking the brunt of the spider webs their pursuers were trying to tangle them in. But a Hyuga, and one with cutting wind chakra, was a difficult thing to ensnare. "They're not getting caught in our webs. Those leaf flies are slick after all. If we don't catch them, we'll never be able to prove to Orochimaru-sama that the Fuma clan deserves a more distinguished position within Otogakure." "Oh? So, you know where Orochimaru is?" The three Fuma ninja flinched as they turned to come face to face with Orange. How was the blonde there? He should be with the rest of his group? "Oi! Sasuke, catch!" Naruto planted his foot into the stomach of one of the nin and sent him flying in the direction of the Konoha ninja, where another one, dressed in mostly black with raven-colored hair. "Wait, did he say Sasuke? As in Uchiha Sasuke? The same Uchiha Sasuke Orochimaru-sama desires?" "Sorry," Naruto smiled before himself exploding and wiping out any further thoughts they might have had regarding delivering Sasuke as a present to Orochimaru. Exploding clone jutsu. The one who wasn't caught up in Naruto's bomb was kicked in the stomach, sending him into a tree where Sasuke quickly proceeded to restrain him with wire. "Now," Sasuke spoke, his Sharingan spinning to hypnotize the captured ninja. Where is the entrance to Otogakure? The entrance. The Fuma clan ninja started, but even Sasuke didn't catch until it was too late as an arrow came flying at breakneck speeds, piercing through the Fuma ninja's head, killing him, and silencing him. And now they were on guard. That arrow was fast, and backed by a significant amount of power for even Sasuke to have trouble seeing it. But now that they were alert, spotting the arrows and dodging them was more doable, even for those without special eyes. Careful, those arrows are attached to a chakra thread, Hinata warned. We've seen something like this before. Sakura recollected. That day, it wasn't something she wanted to remember, but it was a day she'd never forget either. Kitamura. That spider freak who was a part of Orochimaru's Sound 4 who'd tried to kidnap Sasuke years ago. These spiders, threads, and archery, it was similar to him. And a phantom pain tickled at her side. Kitamura had been the one who shot her and Sasuke, bringing them closer to the verge of death than most had ever come back from. Yeah, I know, Sasuke growled. It wasn't like him to forget that either. Payback time. Sure, it wasn't Kitamura, but right now, it was all the same. Where is he? Nearly 1 kilometer back, up in the trees, Hinata spoke. What? 1 kilometer back, and able to snipe with a bow with that much power? Sasuke swore. That arrow, it hadn't been intended for them, it was meant to silence his clanmate from divulging any secrets. Now, dealing with a foe like this, there were a few options: sneak behind him, match and beat his pinpoint accuracy, a massive widespread attack, or overwhelming numbers. 1 would be difficult, 2 was nearly impossible, and 3 was undesirable. Sure, their presence was already known, but a massive attack would just be drawing more spiders to the flame. But numbers, that could work. Naruto, Sasuke shouted as he himself performed a transformation jutsu, changing into Naruto while Naruto made the signature hand seal he was known for. Multi-shadow clone jutsu. Hundreds of Narutos filled the trees, and as Sasuke blended in with the mob, they charged at the sniper with Hinata guiding Sasuke via the wireless radio. Sure, the sniper might be skilled, but picking off hundreds of targets in the span of maybe a minute or two? Well, even that was impossible. And as the mob closed on the sniper, one particular Naruto shot out of the crowd, landing a decisive kick that followed a little bit of dancing and evasion. The ground buckled as the sniper nin was slammed into the ground, Sasuke pinning him in place as he tried the Sharingan again. But this time, he was ready for anything the sniper nin might try to keep them from learning Orochimaru's location. Including a suicide pill tooth. As part of Anbu training, quickly stopping the ingestion of a suicide pill was crucial and fundamental. And before the sniper nin could try something else, he was under the influence of the Sharingan. Well? Sakura asked Sasuke as he returned to the group. That Fuma nin wouldn't be a problem for them any longer. The entrance is about 25 kilometers due north of here, hidden in the hollow of a tree nearby a large lake, Sasuke stated. And that is the direction from which I can sense Hanabi-sama, Hanta spoke. Then let's not waste any more time, Hinata replied. Now with Hanabi so close, with the goal in sight, she didn't want to stop. Sakura took a look around at the team. It was now early in the afternoon. But they were doing okay. Even Hinata. Naruto's consciousness seal had done the trick, giving Hinata what had turned out to be much needed rest. Give me a minute, then we'll be off, Sasuke said as he was seen scribbling something down on a piece of paper, before hiding it in the hollow of a tree trunk. What's that? Sakura asked. Directions, for Kakashi, Sasuke spoke. I've been subtly leaving a trail of pebbles that are coated with a special perfume Pakun can smell. Though, I can't tell how far behind us they'll be. Give me a minute then, Sakura spoke. Sorry Hinata. Why don't we take 5, get some water and food? Then it'll be a straight shot. And as Sakura said that, she performed her own summoning jutsu, and a miniature Katsuyu appeared. Katsuyu-sama, any news from Shishu? Sakura asked. Tsunade-sama dispatched Hatake-san, Jiraiya-sama, Gaisen, and Shizune-san at just after 10 o'clock this morning, Katsuyu said. 10 o'clock. Sakura mused. Thank you. Please convey to Shishu that we think we've found the location of Otogakure. Hi, Katsuyu said before disappearing. They'll have gone by toad to the Valley of the End if I know Orosenin, Naruto spoke. Even still, Kurama is faster. So, they're 13 hours behind us, Sakura calculated. Maybe a little less, Sasuke said. You're forgetting, guys with them. But still, if we wait, we'll be waiting hours. No. Hinata spoke up. I don't want to leave them in there any longer than I have to either, Kibayo. Naruto declared. Sakura? Sasuke turned to the menin. Who knows what they've already endured, Sakura stated. Even if he is early for once, I don't feel like waiting for Kakashi-sensei on this one. So, we're all on the same page then, Sasuke declared. Thank you, Katsuyu, Tsunade replied. So, they know where Otogakure is? Hiyashi asked. Seems like it. They're 25 kilometers away. They'll be there in maybe an hour or two at most, Tsunade said. Sounds like they're not waiting for backup. Tsunade had resolved herself to riding this out in the basement of the Tande department alongside Hiyashi, especially with 0 hour rapidly approaching. It could be arguable been easier to ride this out with a bottle of sake, but Tsunade had just as much at stake with this mission as Hiyashi. Do you think it's wise of them? Hiyashi asked. In all honesty, Tsunade started. If this wasn't Orochimaru, I'd say wait. But only Kamas know what sort of sick perversions Orochimaru is capable of. All I can really do is trust their judgment, Tsunade laughed slightly. Damn, why didn't I just go with them? Leaving them to face Orochimaru all on their own, this may very well go as the stupidest decision I've made yet. Why do you think she did it? Hiyashi spoke after a pause of Tsunade's cracking. Why didn't she tell me where she was going? Probably for the same reason Naruto didn't want her to know in the first place, Tsunade said. To protect you. But that's not her job, Hiyashi replied. As the father, it's my responsibility to protect her. But, even I failed to do just that with her sister. Well, it's not over until the fat toad croaks, right? Tsunade said. It's in their hands now. Hiyashi and Tsunade just sat there again, in a sort of awkwardly suspenseful silence as they waited for the next bit of news to break. What would hopefully be a successful recovery of Hanabi and Team Anko. And Tsunade was silently cursing herself. This would have been so much better with alcohol. It was late in the afternoon by the time the rescue team arrived at the lake described to Sasuke by his former captive. Along the way, they'd encounter further resistance by the Fuma clan, who were apparently Orochimaru's first line of defense, or perhaps just his wannabe rejects. That sniper was the only one who really put up a challenge to their presence, and even he fell at a devised strategy. And some of their comments, it made sense why they were up here, scattered around the land of rice like a flock of vultures, just looking for an opportunity to outwit the snake. There. Sasuke pointed as his Sharingan eyes picked out of the trees, one tree with a large hollow beneath it. Well? What do you think? Naruto asked. A trap, Sasuke replied. Most definitely a trap, Sakura added. And Naruto faltered. I don't know, Hinata stated. I can't see the signs of any traps at the entrance, but? The ground surrounding the base is heavily infused with chakra, Hinata said. My Byakugan can't penetrate through it to see what's below. So in other words, Naruto said, trying to piece things together. It's a trap, Sasuke stated plainly. Most definitely a trap, Sakura affirmed. The entrance may not be trapped, but if this is the entrance to some sort of stronghold, I can't imagine there not being traps, Hinata said. Oh come on. I know there's a trap. Why are you making it sound like I don't know it's trapped? Who do you think you're talking to? I was the Academy's prank and trap master. Defended Naruto. Are we even certain this is Orochimaru's base? Sakura asked. Through our contract, I can sense Hanabi-sama's presence is nearby, Hanta added. I am afraid this is as far as my senses will be able to take you, Hinata-sama. Thank you, Hanta-san, Hinata replied. We shall be ready for your call, should you require our aid in your task of freeing Hanabi-sama, Hanta said as he disappeared. So then, based on what Hanta was saying, Hanabi's around here? Sakura asked. So, this must be one of Orochimaru's bases. Can you find any other points of entry? Anything about what this base might look like or what we can expect? Sasuke asked Hinata and the poor Hyuga focused everything into her eyes, but the chakra shrouds surrounding Otogakure were not budging. Well, it's not an entrance, but this definitely feels like one of Orochi team's houses, Naruto spoke. He'd been quiet for a little over a minute now, and that had everyone wondering what he was up to. The answer to their question was answered by toad-like pupils and red pigments around Naruto's eyes. I can definitely feel strange energies down there, Naruto spoke. Orochi team's cursed seal freaks are in there, but there's more. It's sort of familiar, but I can't seem to finger on it. Kurama's even intrigued by it. Sasuke sighed. In Anbu missions, intel and preparation were key. The more intel they had to prepare for a mission, the better their chances were of successfully executing a flawless plan. But here, they were practically going in blind. It was nowhere near ideal, but it was what they had to work with. "Naruto, keep some clones out in front," Sasuke ordered. "They'll trip the traps. But be ready for anything." "Yeah." Naruto nodded as a trio of clones disappeared down the hole, the four of them following close behind as they descended into the snake's lair. And it was now that they were truly within Orochimaru's grasp. "There's no going back now, D-Bio." Naruto landed, the solid ground meeting his feet in the darkness. And looking forward, there was a large wooden door in front of him, the kanji for east on it. And as Naruto's senses stretched out, there was something beyond that door. Something odd, and something big was definitely on the other side of that door. A massive chakra signature. No, two. One was vaguely familiar, but nowhere near enough to where he could put a finger to it. However, the other was dark and malicious. It was everything the history books had described the Bijou as, should you not know any better. "Hinata, can you see what's beyond that door?" Silence. "Hinata?" Now, Naruto was confused, but as he turned to look around for Hinata, let alone the rest of the team, he realized he was alone. Even entering the base, his clones had somehow been dispelled the moment they entered. "Kurama?" Kurama growled as even he tried to make sense of their predicament. "It's not genjutsu. Your chakra's exactly how it always is, not to mention you're still in sage mode." And so, Naruto reached out with the natural energy, and the feedback he got sent even a shiver down his spine. The energy in this place was just wrong. There was no other way to put it. It was wrong, it was evil, and it was corrupt. But through that energy, he could pick out a few signatures: Sasuke, Sakura, Hinata. They were nowhere near where he was, but they were there somewhere. Somewhere in the chaotic abyss that stretched out before him. And their chakra was still strong. Besides their chakra, there were other, uncorrupted chakra signatures, but they were weak and he couldn't get a read on who or what they were. I think we passed through a barrier when we entered that snake hole," Kurama thought after getting feedback from Naruto's senses. "If what I'm sensing is the case, then that barrier scatters anyone who passes through it to a random point, a sort of space-time barrier." "Damn, so what you're saying then?" Naruto started. "We're already separated and in the belly of the beast?" "It appears so," Kurama said. Looking around, and making a Rasengan for light, Naruto saw that there was no way out. No way save the one directly in front of him, where that dark chakra was coming through. "Well, looks like we'll just have to plow our way through and reconvene with everyone, D-Bio," Naruto declared. "I'd put it slightly different," Kurama stated. "First, we have to get by whatever else is on the other side of this door. Any idea what we're dealing with?" "No, but like you've felt, there are two separate signatures. One of them, I swear I've felt before. It feels like that stubborn ox of a brother." "You mean Octopops?" "Yeah, but the other, the one that feels dark, best proceed with caution." Naruto pushed, and the door budged just enough for him to slip through. And unlike the previous chamber, this one was lit if only by rows and rows of dimly lit tanks, filled with various odds, ends, monstrosities, and trinkets. Well, that explains the first signature. Naruto came face to face with a rather large tank, containing the severed horn of Hachibe. And thinking back to every time he'd seen Gyuki, he recalled that the bull-like Bijou was in fact missing one of his horns. I wonder what he'd pay me to get this back," Kurama mused. "Oi Naruto, think you can seal this up for me?" "Sorry, but not now," Naruto said. "If it really is part of Octopops, then the only way I can seal it is by a demonic seal, and that'll take more time than I'm willing to give. Once we kick Orochi team's face, then we'll come back." "Fine, let's get going then. But if we don't come back, I'm taking you over, got it?" "That dark energy though, it's really giving me the creeps," Naruto shivered. It was a strange feeling, like they were being watched. And as they passed numerous other tanks, there certainly were enough eyes to do just that. Until they came near the end of the hall, and a doorway came into view. But before that, out of the corner of his eye, another large tank, only smashed outwards, like whatever was inside it had broken out. "You feel it, don't you? This malice? It's moving." "Yeah," Naruto said as he braced himself for whatever was lurking in the shadows. Sasuke swore. Of course it had been a trap. And now, it was only him in a small and darkly lit chamber, facing a door with the kanji for south on it. Sakura, Naruto, and Hinata were nowhere to be found, and while the Sharingan had the ability to see chakra, it was nowhere near the Byakugan in that capability. For one, it couldn't see through walls or the giant door in front of him. So all he could see was darkness and the door. Pushing at the massive door, aside, Sasuke stepped into a long corridor. And there was an uneasy feeling about this place. Just what sort of trap did he just enter? Cautiously proceeding down the corridor, eventually there was a light coming from ahead. Not a bright light, but definitely more than just a few measly torches lining the side of a hallway. But aside from the light, growls, grunts, howls, and screams echoed around the chamber above until they found their way to the hallway where he was. Carefully peering into the chamber, doing his best to conceal his presence from whatever monstrosities were in front of him, Sasuke gazed on into a large circular chamber, stories high and lined with nothing but bricks, bars, and cages. And within those cages, people, prisoners, or perhaps worse. And then, the noises stopped. Whatever creatures or monsters there. They were onto something. Was it him? Sasuke cursed. He was certain he was stealthy, and with a level that most others in the Yanbu couldn't detect. But out of the corner of his eye, he caught sight of what exactly was trying to sniff him out, one of Orochimaru's cursed seal freaks. 2 stories above him, a person was sniffing into the air, feeling around for something that had piqued its interest. And that wasn't the only one, as more cursed seal freaks began to emerge from their holes. And they were sensing in his direction, moving into the center of the chamber and walking towards him. Natural energy, that had to explain why they could sense him. Sure, he was no expert when it came to natural energy, but he'd gleaned the basics of its capabilities from Naruto: heightened durability, strength, power, and sensory. Regardless of how corrupted their natural energy was, it made sense that they could feel a foreign chakra signature nearby as all of a sudden, they came to a stop, one of them growling in Sasuke's direction before the entire horde descended upon the Uchiha. It took Sakura a minute to reorient herself with her surroundings. It was obvious that she'd been separated from her team as she was standing alone, and facing a door with the kanji for north on it. After every trick she had to dispel Genjutsus, she knew this separation wasn't a genjutsu. How they'd been split, well, she had some ideas, but nothing that was sticking out. Still, her main priority right now had to be reuniting with her team and getting out of here. And the only way she could see was through the door in front of her. Opening the door, Sakura proceeded forward, into whatever horrors Orochimaru had in store for her. But the minute she passed through the threshold, a horrible smell ravaged her nostrils and churned her stomach. The vapors in the air, they might not have been poisonous, but they might as well have been, as Sakura struggled to wet a cloth and cover her nose in hopes of dampening the smell. A smell of rotting flesh, and of formaldehyde. As Sakura peered into one of the side chambers, she was instantly regretting doing so, as the room was what looked to be a medical operating room, with a surgical table and even a person, if they could still be called that, strewn out and cut open. And finally, after getting a view of the monstrosity on that table, Sakura lost it as she emptied the contents of her stomach on spot there. As a medic, she was used to the gruesome sights of the trade, of blood and bodies on the surgical tables, and of injuries that were so gruesome, only the darkest of imaginations could have thought up such a cause of the injury. But this surpassed everything she'd ever seen. In a sort of Frankenstein fashion, the person on the table was stitched together with other. Well, they didn't appear to be humans. In all honesty, it reminded her vaguely of Amachi's Kaima experiments, but a step further. Said person on the table was a hybrid of what could only be described as human and an insect-like, demonic alien. And just as she wanted to look away and try to forget whatever it was she'd seen, the abdominal cavity of the individual on the table swelled until it burst, spewing a mixture of bile and gases which spread quicker throughout the room than Sakura thought possible. Penetrating her mask and nearly bringing the pink-haired Kunoichi to her knees as she bolted away from the room, afraid of whatever that was spreading through the rooms. That definitely wasn't normal, and for a body to produce something even that foul-smelling, just what sort of hell had she wandered into? Running down the corridor, Sakura stumbled into another room, digging into her sealed supplies for a canister of specialized oxygen mixture, designed especially by Tsunade for situations like this. When a shinobi had inhaled a sort of unknown substance. After a frantic minute of getting her breathing under control, Sakura took account as to where exactly she'd stumbled into this time. And the sights in front of her weren't much of an improvement. Numerous jars and canisters lined the walls and shelves in this room. And suspended in them were heads and brains, hands and claws, hearts, organs, and just about anything one could imagine belonging in a mad doctor's dream laboratory. And just like what Sakura saw on the table back there, whatever was in those jars, while they were human-like, many of them were clearly not fully human. Now, all Sakura wanted to do was find her team, find Aiko-sensei, Hanabi, and Katami, and get the hell out of this place. What she was witnessing down here, in the depths of hell, was every horror story she'd ever read, and then some. Sakura pushed forward, until she passed another room, where she heard a pain moan come from. And while she was afraid to look, this was the first hint that something inside one of these examination rooms was actually alive. And looking in, there was a man on the examination table, the first human thing Sakura had seen since entering this place. "Are you okay?" Sakura asked, concerned, as it was clear the man was suffered from labored breathing. Said man was young and in his prime, probably early to mid-20s. He had light purple hair and grayish-brown eyes. And he was breaking out in a hot sweat. "I'm perfectly fine," the man panted as he immediately sprung up from the table, grabbing Sakura by the throat, and pinning her to the floor as the Konoha medic's eyes widened in horror while the man's flesh turned brown and bubbled. His hand around her neck taking on a sort of crab claw-like appearance as her hands struggled to keep it from snapping her head off from the rest of her body. And only to add to the disgust, 2 other faces of people sprouted from his now bulging and bubbling back. "With this, we shall show Orochimaru-sama the value of the Fuma clan," all 3 faces spoke in unison. Hinata strained her eyes to peer through the door in front of her, marked with the kanji for west. However, as what seemed standard with Orochimaru's bases, the walls were laden with chakra, making it difficult for her Byakugan to see through it. "Naruto-kun," Hinata thought. Where had Naruto, and Sakura, and Sasuke have gone? What happened that got them separated like that? Hinata took a deep breath before forcing open the door in front of her, the only way which it appeared she could go. Other than the door, she was enclosed on all 4 sides and there was nowhere else for her to go. Stepping inside, the room she entered was gigantic, with towering bookcases creating a maze-like feel within Orochimaru's library and archives. And with an eerie purple light, shining down from the crystal lanterns from above, Hinata took note of her surroundings with her Byakugan, but what she saw as she extended her vision nearly blinded her, forcing her to deactivate her Byakugan almost immediately. Rubbing her eyes, it was like she walked into the one place designed to defeat the Byakugan, as all she were reflections of herself staring back, like she was looking into a house of mirrors. But she couldn't afford to stop. She had to find an exit, regroup with Naruto-kun, and save Hanabi. And so, Hinata pressed forward as she made her way through rows and rows of towering shelves, filled to the brink with scrolls and books. And, as she thought the labyrinth would never end, finally the bookcases gave way into a large central area of the library, where a brilliant tapestry hung down on a wall, built solely for displaying it. And on the tapestry, there was what appeared to be the image of some grand palace or temple, with 4 gates, one of them bearing the similar kanji of west, and vaguely resembling the door she'd passed through. The other interesting thing was the fact that by the west gate, there was a tiger, white as the moonlight, and she was certain she recognized it, Byako, the leader of the clan associated with her summoning contract. And it wasn't just the west gate that had an animal guardian by it. Genbu, the black tortoise of the north. Hinata turned around as she heard a voice from behind her, and there was standing a woman, with dark bluish hair tied back in a loose bun. In addition to the hair, the other defining features of her included a green kimono dress with a white flower print, and a cold look to her eyes. Suzaku, the red bird of the south. Saryu, the azure dragon of the east. And Byako, the white tiger of the west. The 4 guardian deities of Koryu, the yellow dragon of heaven. Orochimaru-sama's been obsessed with the legends surrounding the yellow dragon. He even designed his main base to resemble the Golden Temple. With the 4 gates leading to a central path, leading to Orochimaru-sama. Most of us are convinced it's just a fairy tale, but imagine the look of sheer delight when he returned just the other day, claiming to have come into possession of one of the 4 guardians. 4 guardians? Hinata was already starting to connect the dots. That poster, Byako, her summons, the white tigers, and also their other summoner, Hanabi. Where is she? Where did Orochimaru take Hanabi? Hinata demanded of the woman. However, she just sneered back at the Hyuga intruder. "Oh? Hanabi? So you know this girl? Well, too bad you're never going to see her again," the woman laughed. And as Hinata prepared to attack, a surge of chakra welled up from beneath her, encasing her in a prison of violet crystal. "How long has it been?" Tsunade let out a deeply held breath as she looked past the bars and into the cell at her partner in suspense. Long enough. By now, they should have entered the belly of the beast itself. 0 hour. I can sense it, a darkness buried deep within you. You know despair. You have seen hatred. You have feasted upon loneliness, a demonic voice hissed out from the shadows. But there is a stubborn light, I shall have to devour it. For then I shall feast on the energy within you, darkening it and growing myself. Kurama? What is that thing? Naruto asked. He couldn't begin to make heads or tails of it as it slithered into a dimly illuminated spot, giving Naruto just enough light to make out what appeared to be a coiled-up purple snake with a white mask and red wisps of hair coming out. And on the mask, it bore the kanji for 0. It's definitely demonic, I'll give it that, Kurama spoke. But, I cannot recall this demon in particular. But it's chakra, it has chakra, not demonic energy, well I think. We Bijou are the only demons with chakra. And a similar chakra to Gyuki's, but darker, much darker. You bear within you, a demon, the demon snake hissed. I am the Zero Tails, and I shall consume you. Zero Tails? Naruto asked to Kurama, who was sitting back, trying to think. Was there a Zero Tails amongst the Bijou? He was certain there wasn't. The Zero Tail slithered towards Naruto at a quick pace as Naruto readied himself for whatever it was, deciding to test the waters out with his signature jutsu, Shadow Clones. A dozen Narutos appeared at once and tried to surround the Zero Tails but were surprised as tendrils shot out of its smooth and purple body skewering them and dispelling them. This demon was fast as it coiled around Naruto and Kurama was forced to send the blonde some of his chakra, engaging the version 1 cloak. However, the Zero Tails looked towards Naruto with a renewed interest as it shot towards him, forcing Naruto back before flowing the entire laboratory with yellowish arms and appendages. Naruto did all he could to dodge, but just eventually, the arms and tendrils overwhelmed and wrapped him up. But as he tried to break free, Kurama, what's happening? Naruto called out to the giver of his chakra. And Kurama responded with a growl. It's trying to siphon off my chakra. Kurama grunted. And by the way he was sounding, the Bijou was fighting to keep control of his chakra. What? That even surprised Naruto. Bijou chakra wasn't like normal chakra. And if this thing absorbed Bijou chakra, then it would get ugly and fast. The way the tendrils had him, it wasn't tight and didn't fully restrain him as Naruto reached to his side to retrieve his sword, or any sort of blade with which he could try and free himself before the Zero Tail siphoned off more than he wanted. Drawing the sword Mifune-sensei gave him, the blade severed the tendrils which were wrapping him up and freeing Naruto from the grasp of the Zero Tails as he landed on the ground panting already. Damn! Kurama swore. He got more chakra from me than I'd hoped. Naruto looked up at the form of the Zero Tails, which seemed to be growing. It was comprised of a sleek purple body and those yellowish appendages. And based on what had just happened, those appendages were dangerous. So, don't give it something it can latch onto then. Naruto thought up. Exploding clone jutsu. Dozens of Narutos popped into existence. Over the years, his exploding clone control had improved significantly to the point where, much to Tsunade's horror, he could conjure up dozens of walking and talking bombs with ease. Sitting back and taking shelter, Naruto allowed the suicidal clones to do their job. But just as he was about to detonate them, the Zero Tails reeled back and unleashed a roar of black chakra, causing the clones to explode before they were close enough to do the damage Naruto had desired. Shit! Naruto swore as the explosions rocked the lab. Cracking glass, shattering pillars, and breaking stone. And now, tendrils weren't the only thing Naruto was trying to dodge as he moved out of the way of a bunch of falling rocks and debris. Move! Kurama shouted and Naruto picked up on what Kurama was referring to as a beam of concentrated energy flew past his head, missing him by mere millimeters. Naruto retreated back further into the lab to give him some respite. Kurama? Naruto called out to his partner. What the hell is Orochimaru doing with this thing? Kurama thought out loud as Naruto turned to give them a view of the tunnel the Zero Tails had just carved through the earth. I hate to admit, it's got the firepower to make even us Bijou sweat a little. But the most troubling thing is the fact that it can absorb my chakra. Orochimaru, he must have used the chakra in Gyuki's horn as a base before doing something to corrupt it even further. It's the only explanation as to why my chakra wasn't consuming it. So what you're saying then is? Yeah, I think my chakra's going to be more of a liability than an asset here, Kurama resigned. Just as Naruto had picked himself back up, readying his blade, The Zero Tails decided it was ready to feast upon more of Kurama's chakra as it darted towards Naruto. And just as it was about ready to do so, dozens of Narutos, which were hidden all over the room, popped up, armed with Rasengans as they tried to end the Zero Tails with a good old-fashioned Rasengan barrage. But the appendages of the Zero Tails just moved to intercept the path of the Rasengan barrage. And as the Rasengans made contact with the Zero Tails appendages, they too were absorbed by the demon foe. Damn! Naruto swore just as the Zero Tails wrapped him up again, this time taking care to ensure Naruto was fully immobile, until even Naruto popped, revealing him to be just a shadow clone. Right. So ninjutsu's out and Bijou mode is out. Naruto thought as he stood up, having taken shelter within a corner on the opposite side of the room where his clones and the Zero Tails were. It feels like your sword work, which means physical attacks should affect it, but Kurama started. Yeah, it didn't seem to do anything, cutting off one of those appendages. It just grew back, Naruto responded. So, why don't we give Senjutsu a try? Having entered Sage mode, Naruto stepped out from his hiding place while the Zero Tails rewound itself, taking focus towards its prey. And it was then that Naruto could begin to sense it, what exactly this thing was. So Orochimaru was trying to create an artificial Bijou, Naruto thought as he sensed the cultured chakra of the Hachibi in there. He was almost expecting Bijou chakra to mix in with the cursed seal, but that didn't feel to be the case. In fact, he couldn't feel any natural energy within it, which was promising. No natural energy meant perhaps it couldn't absorb natural energy. But the chakra was definitely dark. Feels like an attempted hybrid of Bijou chakra and demonic energy, Kurama stated. Demonic energy, the energy of darkness which most demons drew their power from, was an ancient type of energy from the ages of demons that predated chakra, the Bijou, and the founder of shinobi. Orochimaru's messing around with forces that are better left undisturbed. Right, let's go, Naruto declared as he sped towards the Zero Tails at blinding speeds, and before the demon was able to react, Naruto had planted a fist square in the middle of its white, mask-like face, sending it crashing back into the stone wall. Well, that seemed promising, Naruto thought, but then again, that wasn't necessarily a jutsu. Just the frog kumite, or a natural energy-enhanced punch. Let's try this. Senpo, Twin Shudama Rasengan. Naruto formed a large sage-powered Rasengan in both hands as he pressed his momentum. And the Zero Tails brought up its appendages to block, but rather than absorb the attack like it should have, the Rasengans tore at the appendages and both Naruto and Kurama smirked. It couldn't absorb Senjutsu. Both Rasengans had been consumed and it was clear the Zero Tails was mad as it let out that same roar from before, pushing Naruto back with a dark and ominous force, setting the stage for one final clash as dozens of shadow clones popped into existence, each of them forming their own Senpo, Chudama Rasengan. And as Naruto charged, the Zero Tails twisted its way around the army's assault, blocking the Rasengans where it could and dispelling the clones when possible. But that was all just a distraction to set up for what was really coming as the real Naruto just sat back, grinning with the whirling vortex of chakra buzzing in his hand. Senpo, Rasen Shuriken. Even the Zero Tails could sense that attack was bad news and as it did everything in its power to dodge, the few remaining Naruto clones headed it off, forcing the artificial demon back into the path of Naruto's most powerful jutsu which curved back around, hitting the Zero Tails square in the face. Think that did it? Naruto asked as the Rasen Shuriken exploded, engulfing the Zero Tails in its entirety. Yeah, but next time you may want to pay better attention to where everything is before you decide where to admire your handiwork. Kurama groaned as Naruto looked up, directly above, where the Zero Tails was now in a freefall, directly above him. Aw shit. T-by-o. It took every ounce of strength she had as Sakura finally managed to pry whatever this thing was, its claw from her neck. From what it had said just before it grabbed Sakura, it was a member of the Fuma clan, the same ninja who'd attacked them on their way to the hideout. Who exactly this person, or these people were, well they weren't human anymore based on what it appeared Orochimaru and Kabuto had done to them. That claw. It had come at her surprisingly quick and with power that nearly rivaled her own. It took every ounce of strength Tsunade had pounded into her just to free herself and as she went up to rub her neck, there was a moderate trickle of blood. Nothing that she couldn't heal quickly. But a millisecond late stopping the attack and her headless corpse would be another thing Kabuto would add to his disgusting collection. Sakura's eyes widened as she'd placed her glowing hand over her neck, hoping for just a moment to heal herself, but the Fuma monster wasn't even going to give her that as one of the heads shot towards her in a manner that shouldn't have been possible. Claw at the ready to separate something from her body. Her hand still on her neck, Sakura dove behind one of the stone counters, just barely dodging the attack. This monster was fast. But she wasn't giving a respite as the second head twisted around the other end, trapping her from both ends. Both heads and claws struck at her from opposite directions as Sakura jumped for the ceiling, again still clutching her neck. Healing herself, while possible moving, was showing to be much more difficult than it should have been. And with a wound being on her neck, it was imperative that she healed up. And only to make it just that more difficult, Sakura was currently upside down on the ceiling, gravity pulling the blood towards her neck and head. But still, her opponent didn't relent as the two limbs shot towards her, their bodies twisting out, extending and oozing from the central body which was just sneering at her. And Sakura was running on the ceiling, making for the doorway of the lab as she slid out and behind the wall while the two pursuant heads and limbs followed her, crashing into the opposite side of the hallway before retreating back into the lab. So there's a limit to how far they can stretch. Sakura assumed as she utilized the brief moment to seal up the wound on her neck. But just as Sakura managed to catch her breath, the walls on either side of her shattered as both heads barreled through on either side of her, and just as she was about to anticipate their movements and dodge, they took her by surprise as spider-like threads shot out of their claws, wrapping around her wrists. With a nasty, joint-popping yank, they pulled at Sakura. Sakura grunted in pain. They were literally trying to rip her limb from limb. NNNNGGHHH, knit here. Again, it was a battle of strength. The strength of a monster, versus the strength of Sakura. The muscles and tendons in her arm strained hard against the tension the monster was pulling on her. And she wasn't losing. Not when losing meant she'd end up ahead in Kabuto's jar or an experiment on his table. No, she could not lose. Not in here. Shanaru. Calling upon a strength deep within her, Sakura pulled with all her might, fighting against the monstrous strength of this abomination. She wasn't going to give, and these damned threads weren't going to give. Something had to give. And with a mighty roar, something did. The two appendage heads flew towards one another as Sakura reeled them in, their heads crashing into one another, and the walls from which they came shattering as the shockwave rippled back towards the central body. Sakura panted as the appendages retreated slowly while she caught her breath and worked out her arms. That had done it. The way those faces looked, colliding into one another like that had to have hurt it, if only a little. Now, she just needed to figure out how to kill that thing. Peering around the ruined wall, and surveying the situation in the room, the monstrous creature was clutching himself in pain. Yeah, being slammed together like they were definitely hurt. And it was feeling the recoil of Sakura's attacks. Now might very well be her chance as Sakura steeled her resolve and rushed in, reeling back her fist and punching at her opponent. But despite still recovering from her earlier attack, the monster looked Sakura in the eye and smiled as one of the side heads moved to take her punch, literally blowing it off of the main body in a heap of flesh and goop. But while it had supposedly sacrificed a head, the other limb whipped around and sent Sakura flying across the chamber and into the far wall, hard. And still, having reinforced her body with chakra, as well as parrying the blow so that it was only a glancing blow, Sakura smiled. The reinforcement had absorbed much of the damage, though she was definitely going to be feeling that punch in the morning. 3 heads, 1 down, and if she were right, she'd just set up a powerful genjutsu that should allow for an opening, right about now. The creature turned and began walking towards her, but not towards her. The genjutsu which she had cast on him making it look as if she'd flown a few meters off where she was right now, and unconscious on the ground. Now really was her chance as Sakura pulled out a kunai with an explosive tag and gripped it in her hands. If she had to take out all 3 heads, then she would. The second would die to her punch, and the third would die to the tag. But as she moved to implement her plan, the creature grinned and whipped around, catching her with its fist. But it wasn't just the fist that was the issue, as it was coated with a rainbow-colored chakra that shot Sakura backwards and into one of the nearby tables. And as Sakura tried to orient herself, she was trapped. Trapped inside some sort of chakra-based, triangular prism. And the creature was grinning at her. "Genjutsu won't work on me. Not when I have 3 bodies in one," her opponent spoke as his mutated arm, and another more human-like arm, sticking out of the mutated flesh held another prism in his hand. And Sakura was mentally cursing herself. She hadn't expected it to be such, but in a sense, it was almost like Naruto when it came to genjutsu. 3 separate individuals, yet part of the same organism. She casted a genjutsu on one, but the other dispelled it. And now she was caught in their next trap. The prism was solid, and as she pushed against it, it just closed on her, trying to squish her. All the while, her opponent just laughed at her attempts to break out as he pushed his own hands on the prism in his own hands, and the prison Sakura was trapped in, pushed on her even more. Hee, behold, the ancient technique of the Fuma clan, the Cure Mandala, the creature sneered. No one has ever broken from its grasp. And to accentuate his point, the Fuma clan monster pushed his hands closer together, and once again Sakura was pushed further and further into a ball-like position as this jutsu tried to crush her. But she wasn't going to just give in as she pushed back. Once again, it was a battle of strength, a battle of willpower, and a battle of resolve. No way was she going to lose here. Not today. No, she was going to kick this guy's ass. She was going to reconvene with Naruto, Sasuke, and Hinata. They were going to complete this mission, rescue Team Anko, and go home. No way in hell was she dying today as she pushed back against the enclosing prism. And ever so slightly, it gave to her attempt. The Fuma monster's smirk turned to a scowl as he realized Sakura was fighting, and she was starting to overpower him. The Fuma monster put all of his might into crushing Sakura, but as her resolve and will grew, so did her strength. She was winning this. She was going to win this until the prism. The prism Sakura was encased in began to crack and she let out one last Shanaru, pushing with all of her strength before the prism gave in. The entire room was enveloped in a massive blast. Yet, as Sakura stood up, she was fine. The blast hadn't affected her, and yet the entire lab had been ravaged by the blast, including the monster who'd attacked her. Panting, Sakura stood up while her opponent lay in a pile of rubble at the far end of the room. This was going to end now. Genjutsu didn't work, but the other tools in her arsenal should, namely her strength and knowledge of poisons, as she took out a good deal of her senbone. "I am not dying here," Sakura shouted as she drove one fist into one head, followed by her second fist into the other, crushing whatever lay beneath them, and driving the poisoned senbone into the monster. Sakura had but a moment to survey her handiwork before the room shook and buckled and the victorious pink-haired ninja flight into the hallway as she ran to escape the collapsing cavern. With one last push and a jump, Sakura dove out of the way of the last of the falling ceiling tiles, tumbling on the ground, and coughing as she tried to force the dust from her lungs. That had to get him, Sakura panted. But as she began to relax, and the adrenaline wore off, bolts of pain shot through her body, in particular, her arms and the muscle that tore when the Fuma monster tried to rip her arms off. "Gah!" Sakura cried out as she did her best to focus her chakra into her healing jutsu, hoping that it wouldn't take too long to heal herself. Clangs of metal against bone and stone echoed out through the tunnels and caverns that wound their way through the barracks of Orochimaru's cursed seal-bearing minions. Sasuke's Sharingan counted nearly 3 dozen, all in what had been learned to be the second stage of the cursed seal transformation. And in that second stage, their speed, strength, power, and durability were all heightened beyond what could be considered normal. Well beyond normal, in fact. And all 3 dozen of the cursed seal freaks were descending upon Sasuke as the Uchiha was doing his best to try and funnel them down a tunnel where he could pick them off one by one. And while 2 or 3 had fallen by the quick slashes of his blade, they were more of the berserkers of the group, eschewing defensive capabilities in favor of speed and attack power. But for Sasuke, for the Sharingan, the berserkers were the ones who'd fall first, as Sasuke's blade could easily cut through their minimal defenses. It was the ones that had thicker hides, scales, bones and spines, or blade-like arms that were the problems. Those were the ones he couldn't kill with a simple flick of the sword. Sasuke dodged another cursed seal enemy, locking eyes with it and flaring his Sharingan as the attacker cowered away. That was a good sign. These things could be affected by the Sharingan's power. His eyes could momentarily pacify the beasts. And while his sword on its own couldn't pierce the scales of many of the more armored foes, his Chidori and its variants could. Sasuke panted heavily as the last of the cursed seal enemies dropped. Yeah, he hurt all over from some of those attacks, but despite looks, he'd successfully managed to mitigate most of the damage, turning what should be kill strikes into mere glancing blows. Naruto, considering that Orochimaru had a particular interest in himself, and Naruto had discovered that Orochimaru's cursed seal made use of this natural energy, and that Naruto could actually harness said natural energy. He'd taken every opportunity to ask Naruto about what the capabilities of natural energy was. And even the prospect of going up against something that could harness natural energy, even if it wasn't anywhere near the point where Naruto or Jiraiya could utilize Senjutsu. It honestly scared the crap out of him. But still, having witnessed full well what Naruto's potential was utilizing Senjutsu, the fact that he'd survived that onslaught of nature energy-wielding freaks was a testament to the training he'd been through the past 3 years. But as Sasuke re-entered the main chamber, there was still one last thing. One more of those cursed seal freaks remained, tucked into the back of a far chamber. But this one was obviously different, considering it hadn't charged Sasuke as the Uchiha carefully approached the huddled form of a man. "I don't know who you are, but you should leave here now," the man said in a pleading fashion. Even Sasuke was caught by surprise. Not just his personal encounters with Orochimaru's cursed seal subordinates, but other accounts from comrades and records didn't suggest them to be capable of hesitance, empathy, mercy, or sanity for that matter. They'd just attack. And yet, this one was different as Sasuke picked out orange spiky hair from the huddled human. I could feel it, all of their bloodlust. Ever since Kimimaro, I've been losing it more and more. I don't want to hurt anyone, and yet. Kimimaro. Sasuke knew that name. That was the name of the leader of the Sound Four who were sent to abduct him from Konoha all those years ago. However, before Sasuke could think on that thought further, the orange-haired man started screaming as his body underwent the version 2 cursed seal transformation. Only the main difference was that it didn't emanate from a cursed seal. Sasuke jumped back, dodging man's strike as he quickly locked eyes with him, his Sharingan trying to enact the same sort of pacification genjutsu which had worked on many of the others. But as Sasuke went to run the man through with a Chidori, the man stopped and the cursed form retreated. "You're..." the man spoke. "Uchiha Sasuke." And for some reason, Sasuke momentarily paused his attack. No really out of any desire to spare this foe, but more out of curiosity, considering that not only had the cursed form retreated, but also that he somehow knew who Sasuke was. "Kimimaro was sent to retrieve you for Orochimaru," the man said. "He said he wouldn't return, as his health was deteriorating rapidly. Yet he referred to you as his legacy. And that for Orochimaru-sama's sake, he'd seek you out. But you never arrived. Kimimaro failed to bring you here. And yet, why after all these years are you here? If you really must know, I'm here to kill Orochimaru," Sasuke stated plainly. "Now, must I kill you like the rest of your kind?" "I see," the man said before thinking. It appears, Kimimaro served Orochimaru-sama loyally, and yet his legacy is Uchiha Sasuke. And now Kimimaro's legacy, Uchiha Sasuke, has come to kill Orochimaru-sama. Very well, I shall respect Kimimaro's legacy. I will not oppose your purpose. This caught Sasuke by surprise. Those with the cursed seal weren't supposed to think rationally, or as rationally as the man's rambling sounded. Who was this man? "Who are you?" Sasuke asked. Though, he really didn't have much time. "You're different from all the rest." "My name is Hugo," Hugo stated. "In truth, I don't like to kill. But I was born with a curse that causes me to enter periods of rage. Up until now, no one besides Kimimaro has been able to quell my rage. And yet, you are a far more effective cage than anything Orochimaru has been able to provide to me. Orochimaru saw my curse, and in his attempts to cure me, also created his cursed seal." Wait. Sasuke's mind stopped to think. Momentarily. This man, Hugo, is where Orochimaru's cursed seal comes from? Perhaps, Hugo was more valuable alive than dead. But the question was, would he oppose Sasuke and the objectives of the mission, or not? "So, what will you do?" Sasuke asked. "I intend to kill Orochimaru here. Will you stand in my way?" "No. If it is your will that Orochimaru die today, then that is the will of Kimimaro as yours legacy," Hugo stated. "And, you are the first person since Kimimaro to pacify my rage. As such, I cannot kill you and I do not wish to oppose you. In fact, I would request to accompany you." Sasuke hesitated for a minute. "That's not possible. My comrades are also here. Things will get chaotic here and I don't think they'll take you for an ally." Sasuke had to think for a moment. The name Hugo was familiar, but it was old. And then he finally recalled where the name came from, Karen and Naruto. Hugo was the one who fought with Naruto and nearly destroyed the remaining ruins of Uzashiogakuer. And he was certain there'd be a confrontation between these two the minute they met eyes. Sasuke definitely didn't want Hugo killing Naruto, if he even could. And as for Naruto killing Hugo, well, it wasn't something he wanted either. Hugo had piqued an interest he didn't think he had, and now that he was engaged, perhaps this was another of Orochimaru's traps, but maybe it wasn't. Maybe there was something more to Hugo. I see, Hugo said. Then I shall simply leave and await for you. Should I come looking for you around Konoha? No, Sasuke stated. That also probably wasn't a good idea. But he had an idea on how to find Hugo. And a certain cousin of a certain blonde might do just the trick. I'll find you once this is all over, within the next few weeks. Very well, Hugo agreed. I shall see to myself then. Somewhere quiet and away from people where I won't be provoked until you return. The woman, a warden of Orochimaru's whose name was Goren, hummed as she took in her handiwork. Out of all of Orochimaru's minions, Goren was one of his most fearsome. Bearer of the Shoten, or crystal release, Goren had the ability to crystallize any matter. In a way, it was like Haku's Hyoton, but even then it was a step or two above. Truly a most fearsome foe. Perfect. That Four Eyes had better be thankful I brought him a Hyuga, Goren grinned. He just had to go and throw a little tantrum once Orochimaru-sama told him he couldn't touch the little Hyuga girl because of her ties to the Celestial Guardians. Oh, he's going to owe me big for this. Goren turned her back to the crystallized Hinata, grinning and laughing. It was time to go and rub it in Kabuto's face. That is, until a resounding crack echoed through the library and stopped Goren in her track as she turned back. Hinata. The crystal prison which, in the countless times she'd used it, had never broken, until now. The purple crystal prison Hinata was trapped in creaked and cracked before it finally shattered. But that wasn't the surprising thing. Typically, whenever her crystals broke, whatever had been crystallized shattered with it. And yet, here was Hinata, uncrystallized, intact, and breathing. But, how? Goren asked, taken by surprise. That was close, Hinata thought. That attack. It was similar to Haku's. Almost like she was being encased in ice. But, as she felt herself, there was something off. Hinata hadn't activated her countermeasure without the jutsu affecting her in some capacity. Looking down, her left foot was still solid. The crystallization process had caught her foot before she had a chance to exert her chakra from her body in a protective measure. Oh? A smile appeared on Goren's face as she realized what exactly Hinata was looking at. Her foot. So, not going to talk? But Goren already knew the answer. She knew the weaknesses in her jutsu, and she knew by reputation that Hyugas had good enough chakra control to exploit one of those weaknesses. Chakra? She couldn't crystallize chakra. What is it Orochimaru wants with Hanabi? Hinata asked again. She needed to buy time. She was circulating chakra through her crystallized foot, taking an old note back from a training session years ago with Haku. When it came to warming oneself when they were frozen, circulating chakra actually helped to reverse the effects of frostbite, a sort of crystallization-like effect. And she could feel her foot loosening up, if only slightly. Well, if you really must know, Goren shrugged. The legend of the yellow dragon of the center. It says long ago, there was an emperor who ascended into heaven, not as a human, but as a dragon and as a god. Orochimaru-sama has forever been obsessed with immortality and believes that with the power of the four celestial gates, he too can ascend to godhood. Whether it's true or not, I can't really say. But who am I to oppose the will of Orochimaru-sama? Now, how's your foot feeling? It seemed like Goren was done giving Hinata a few moments, but Hinata had the feeling and control back in her foot as she extended a barrier of chakra around herself. Well, if Goren couldn't crystallize Hinata, then she'd just have to fight. The good news, this Hyuga lacked a certain seal that sealed away the Byakugan upon death. That meant she didn't have to hold back. She could kill this Hyuga, and if Kabuto really wanted, he could salvage the eyes from her corpse. Shoten, Shuriken Wild Dance. Hinata saw it through her Byakugan. The chakra forming and shooing out from Goren's arm before it numerous crystal shuriken formed out of air. It's like Naruto-kun's Shuriken Shadow Clone Jutsu, Hinata thought before making her counter. Protection of the 8 trigrams. Crystal met wind chakra, shattering upon the impact. But Goren only smiled as the shard of crystal remained suspended around Hinata, before converging on one another and coiling around Hinata. Shoten, crystal needles. The fragments of crystals converged around Hinata before forming into several long shoots that were bent on skewering her. But Hinata dodged as she dropped flat against the floor before pushing off the base of one of said needles and putting some distance between herself and Goren, landing her next to one of the many fountains that extended the library. Suten, Great Waterfall Vortex. Hinata called out as she made use of the water surrounding her, creating a torrential flood to sweep Goren away, but the Auto Warden was simply smiling. I'll be taking that. Shoten, tearing crystal, falling dragon. Gurren called out as Hinata's water attack quickly crystallized before twisting and snaking around Gurren, into the form of a pink crystal dragon. Oh no, she can crystallize jutsus? Hinata panicked. That wasn't good. That was a mistake. And with but a flick of the wrist, Gurren unleashed her crystal dragon upon Hinata as the Hyuga shinobi did her best to dodge and avoid, being forced into the bookcases as the dragon snaked after her. Oh, Orochimaru-sama is going to be pissed at you now for wrecking his precious library, Gurren grinned as she willed the dragon after Hinata. If water won't work, then what about wind? Hinata thought as she went about the next jutsu. 8 trigrams, Mountain Crusher. The Hyuga technique she'd picked up from Neji Niasen. Regardless of what the elders said, she could feel it and Neji could feel it. It was inherently a wind-based technique. The Mountain Crusher made contact with the crystal dragon head-on, shattering it into fragments. But in doing so, Gurren led into her follow-up. Shoten, Shuriken Wild Dance. Using the fragments of crystal from her dragon, she shot at Hinata with several crystal shuriken. Only this time, Hinata didn't have nearly as much time to get her protection of the 8 trigrams up. And as a result, she took some damage. Panting and bleeding in numerous spots, she'd managed to avoid the worst of it, but a crystal shuriken embedded in her shoulder and thigh weren't ideal either. What did she do? She needed to get in close to end this. She wasn't going to be able to fight from ranged and win this. She had to win. She had to get past Gurren and get to Hanabi. Would Gurren let her into close combat? She had no idea, but from the looks of things, Gurren appeared to be skilled at distanced combat. And it didn't help her either that Hinata had to significantly power down her Byakugan. The entire chamber was filled with chakra-laced crystals that could reflect back on her, so not only was she forced to limit the range of her Byakugan to be just what was the distance between her and her opponent, but in doing so, the power and accuracy was downgraded as well. In other words, she was having trouble distinguishing chakra flows and tenketsu, seeing things as more of masses of chakra. Flashback. Hinata and Neji were together sparring in the courtyard of the Hyuga compound. It had been nearly 2 years since Naruto had left on his trip with Master Jiraiya, and just as Neji was training hard for the upcoming Jonin trials in a few weeks, Hinata was diligently trying to improve herself as well. Good, now apply a shape transformation, Neji instructed as visible chakra glowed around Hinata's hands. In her spar, while she wasn't making use of the wind-laced version of the Juken for Neji's own safety, she was taking this spar seriously with the Juken and full chakra pulses. And having followed up on a series of strikes, chakra building in her hand, there was now a significant amount to do something with it. And as Hinata focused on the chakra in her hands, it began to take the shape of a pair of lion-like heads. And Neji prepared himself for what exactly Hinata had conjured as she struck out, hitting Neji with the chakra-laden fists. Neji emerged from a nearby tree, having used a Kawarimi to escape from the brunt of Hinata's attacks, but was still panting heavily. And Neji Niasen, Hinata shouted, worried she'd gone a little overboard, only for Hiyashi to come over who'd been observing Hinata's latest attempt to come up with her own jutsu. Are you okay, Neji? Hiyashi asked as Neji was still panting and trying to catch his breath. Yeah, but to think I even felt that like that through the Kawarimi, Neji panted. I saw what happened, Hiyashi said. Hinata's new jutsu effectively pushed the chakra in the area of contact out, creating a sort of chakra void within Neji before the Kawarimi took effect. A void of chakra, if even only momentarily, was dangerous as it threw the body's entire homeostasis into whack. But that wasn't the most worrying thing. End flashback. Ever since that day, she hadn't used the jutsu in training with another person, only on training dummies and stumps as she worked to improve it with her wind chakra. Her, Neji, and Hiyashi had discussed theories behind what it could do, but it wasn't anything Hinata wanted to use on an actual person in practice if what they discussed were even remotely true. But now, she really didn't have a choice, did she? Jushu, Twin Lion's Fist, Hinata called out as she gathered and shaped her chakra in her hand, forming the signature lion silhouette of her most powerful jutsu. Gurren mused. Fine. Shoten, Jade Crystal Blade. A pair of blades covered Gurren's forearms as the two prepared to clash. While Gurren was confident her crystals could absorb the chakra burst from the Juken, she'd also coated herself in a sort of crystal armor that could protect her body from the worst a Hyuga could potentially unleash. One of Gurren's blades and Hinata's lion clashed as the crystal shattered. Yet, despite the shattered crystal blade, Gurren just stood there with a snide grin on her face. Sure, you can destroy my crystal, but I'll just keep coming right back to. As Gurren went to form another crystal blade, but an immense pain shot through her arm. And as she looked down, despite the lack of apparent injury, the lack of chakra, the pain, and the crumbling crystal armor on her arm told Gurren something was terribly wrong. It was only brief, but Hinata focused her Byakugan on that particular arm. The one which had taken the strike of her still active Jushu, Twin Lion's Fist. There was absolutely no chakra flow. And it wasn't returning, unlike what had happened when she just pushed the chakra out of Neji. No, had she have focused her Byakugan even further, she'd have seen the remnants of Gurren's chakra network in that arm. "Why, you little bitch? What did you do?" Gurren shouted as she tried once again to form her Shoten, Tearing Crystal, Fallen Dragon. But while the dragon took form, holding it together with just a single hand to form, maintain, and manipulate the chakra was near impossible. And out of rage, Gurren moved towards and struck at Hinata, only for the young Hyuga to simply parry the strike and retaliate with her Twin Lion's Fist to Gurren's stomach, the wind chakra ravaging the tendon, the very core of Gurren's chakra. It was over. The Auto Warden sunk briefly to her knees before falling flat on her face. And echoing throughout the entire hall was the shattering and breaking of crystal. It was then that Hinata finally got a glimpse of what that jutsu of hers could do, as it was now safe to activate her Byakugan in its fullest. Gurren's tendon was shredded, and quickly fading. No longer would it be able to combine physical and spiritual energy into chakra. And without chakra, especially for a shinobi whose bodies were so accustomed to and developed for the flow of chakra, it was a death sentence. This was not like what had happened to Hyuga Shinji, all those years ago. His tendon was still intact, just most of the pathways radiating from it had been severed. Gurren's, on the other hand, it had looked as if one of those lion heads had taken a bite directly out of Gurren's tendon. And as Hinata left the library, moving on to finding Hinabi, she collapsed to her knees in tears. Sure, killing was part of a shinobi's job description. But tally up the kill count of everyone in the Konoha 16, and Hinata's was by far the lowest. If there was one part of the shinobi life she hated, it was the killing of other human beings, even if they were enemies or served someone as despicable as Orochimaru. Naruto groaned as he pulled himself out of the heaping mess that was the carcass of the Zero Tails. Why did it have to fall on top of him like that? It was just plain disgusting. To think that Orochimaru had actually tried to create a demon by mixing the Hichibi's chakra with demonic energy, even Naruto shivered at the thought of what could have become. But putting that aside, Naruto looked around the lab just to make sure there was nothing else that wanted a taste of his chakra. It was a mess. That was the simplest way to describe it. Glass and rubble littered the floor everywhere, and as he looked on, a massive quake shook the entire base, causing a few more chunks of ceiling to fall and nearly knock him on the head. Shadow Clone Jutsu. A few Narutos popped into existence. "See what you guys can glean from here," Naruto instructed before tossing one of them a scroll. "And see if you can seal up Octopop's horn. I'm going to go on and see if I can regroup with Hinata-chan and the rest of them." "TSK, why do you get to see Hinata-chan?" one of the clones argued. "Yeah. I thought you promised me it was my turn to see Hinata-chan, T-Bio," another of the clones argued, just as another tremor shook the entire base, causing a few more rocks to fall down and smack one of the clones, dispelling it. "And that's why," Naruto groaned. Why did his clones have to argue with him sometimes? Anyways, you guys know what to do, so clean up here. What awaited the blonde Uzumaki after proceeding on from Orochimaru's little specimen collection was a long and dark hallway. No resistance as he ran down the hallway, coming to a large antechamber, with 4 other doorways branching off of it. Hopefully. There was a clicking of heels against stone as Naruto turned to another of the hallways, for Sakura to emerge from it, and based on the look on her face, she'd obviously seen better. "Sakura-chan?" Naruto called out, grabbing the pinkette's attention as the mid-nin ran over to her blonde teammate and wrapped him up in a hug which she desperately needed right now. You're not hurt, are you?" "No, at least nothing serious," Sakura replied, before turning back to the hall behind her. I knew we'd be seeing disturbing things, I just didn't think Orochimaru could stoop that low." "I see," Naruto spoke as Sakura gave him a quick recap of the trial she faced. "Sasuke-kun? Hinata? Have you seen them?" Sakura asked. "No," Naruto spoke. He wasn't in sage mode, his fight with the Zero Tails have exhausting all of the natural energy in his system. "But I came from there, and you came from there. Then they should be here shortly," Naruto stated as he pointed to the other corridors converging on the antechamber. Yeah, Sakura nodded before they heard the sound of footsteps running towards them from another hallway. The negative emotion sensing wasn't picking up anything hostile, so while Naruto was ready for anything, he was a bit relaxed as a blue blur came flying from the hallway, crashing into Naruto and sending him and said, "Blue blob to the floor. Naruto-kun." "Oog." Naruto groaned. "Thank Kami you're alright, Hinata." However, Naruto felt something wet soak through the shoulder of his coat and shirt. Looking down, Hinata was crying, not to mention bleeding pretty badly in a few spots. Naruto hated seeing her cry, but whatever had triggered her, had already happened and so all he could do now was comfort her the best he could. "Now, all we need is..." Sakura looked towards the remaining two hallways as she quickly worked to patch up Hinata's wounds. "Oi," and Sakura breathed a sigh of relief. Although, out of all of them, Sasuke definitely looked the worse, though he was still standing strong. "So, what sort of welcome party did Orochi team have for you?" Naruto asked to no one in particular and everyone at the same time, afraid of the answer. "This place, it's set up similar to the Golden Temple," Hinata stated. 4 gates, north, south, east, and west, leading to a central path that ascends to the final platform of the Golden Dragon. Hinata pointed around to the 5 corridors. So if the 4 corridors they came from were the 4 gates, then the last corridor was the one that would lead them to Orochimaru. "How do you know?" Sakura asked. "I landed in Orochimaru's library," Hinata said. "I was confronted by its librarian, a woman named Goren. She had a powerful bloodline that could crystallize anything. Similar to Haku-kun's Hyoton, but it felt more powerful. But I saw a tapestry that depicted the 4 celestial guardians, surrounding the Golden Dragon. That Goren lady, she commented that the legend of the Golden Dragon is some sort of obsession by Orochimaru in an attempt to gain immortality and godhood. One of those celestial guardians, Byakko, the White Tiger. Isn't that?" Naruto started. "Yes, Byakko-sama is the leader of the White Tiger clan, who I and Hanabi are bound to by nature of our summoning contract," Hinata said. "I don't want to trust her, but she didn't sound to be lying. If Orochimaru knew Hanabi had the White Tiger contract, and what Goren said was right, then she's alive." "And what of this Goren?" Sasuke asked. "Dead," Hinata said solemnly. "She was strong, but I'm not about to die here, not without saving Hanabi." "What about you, Sasuke?" Naruto asked. "Oh you know, only a few dozen of Orochimaru's cursed seal freaks," Sasuke said. "You?" "Orochimaru was trying to create a demon called the Zero Tails," Naruto stated. "I'd rather not speak about where I went," Sakura stated as she involuntarily shivered. "It was Orochimaru's laboratory, where he and Kabuto performed their sick and twisted medical procedures." "Did you?" Hinata asked Sakura. "No, I didn't see anything that hinted towards Anko or her team in there," Sakura said. "Thank Kami for that at least." "Then, shall we?" Sasuke said, motioning towards the final corridor. "I still can't make out too far into this place," Hinata spoke. "Orochimaru built in some powerful chakra seals to reinforce the base. Even my Byakugan can't see through more than a wall or two." "Let's get going, T-Bio," Naruto declared as they proceeded cautiously, yet quickly down the final corridor. Numerous small chambers and rooms branched off from the main corridor as they made their way further into Orochimaru's world. Residences, labs, studies, all of those were contained within these chambers. And they included a good mixture of doctors, scientists, and shinobi loyal to Orochimaru. And now, it was time for Sasuke to do what his Zanbu training had taught him, as he stealthily moved into any of the occupied rooms and dispatched any and all of Orochimaru's lackeys. There was no remorse in these kills. These people knew exactly what sort of man they were serving, and what sort of causes they were contributing towards. And then, they came to another of the side chambers, only this one was bigger than any of the other labs. Strike that, this one was huge. Naruto was certain he could even go full Kyuubi mode in here and still have room to maneuver. But it wasn't the size of the room that caught everyone's attention. The room was rather plain, except for numerous support columns around the outside, and 3 tables, or altars in the center. And an elaborate ceiling matrix covering the entirety of the room. And as Naruto found himself enamored with the ceiling matrix, trying to decode its secrets, Hinata's Byakugan managed to catch a glint of a familiar chakra, off in a side chamber as she darted in with Sakura following. Hanabi. Sure enough, there in a cage, lying on the floor, was the prone figure of Hanabi. And against a determined Hinata, the cage's lock didn't stand a chance as Hinata rushed to her sister's side. But Hanabi was unresponsive, and she was breaking out in a sweat while her body shivered. "Sakura-san, she's not responding," Hinata said as Sakura took a seat next to Hanabi as well, activating her medical jutsu and checking over the young Hyuga. "There's a pulse, the vitals are there, but something's wrong, something's very wrong," Sakura said as her examination took her upwards towards Hanabi's shoulder, and there they saw it, Orochimaru's curse mark. And Hinata gasped. "Don't worry," Sakura assured. "Naruto can get it off. Though, the sooner the better." "I'll go and get him," Hinata said, rushing out of the room, only to hear a loud crash come from the main chamber. Naruto, obviously pissed off, had just crushed one of the stone tables with a single punch, from a hand that was now bleeding pretty bad. "Oi! Dobe! Don't go bringing the entire chamber down on us," Sasuke reprimanded. "Naruto-kun. We found Han. This seal has Uzumaki elements to it." Naruto growled. "Uro-sennin and I knew, we just knew it, that damned Kabuto did get away with something." He. Impressive observation, Naruto-kun. That voice, and that sickening cackle. "Kabuto." Naruto growled as he looked eye to eye with the four-eyed traitor of a roach that Kabuto was. Ah, such a wonderful find it was too. Kabuto relished. Who'd have thought the Uzumakis were capable of producing something like this, the Chimera seal? Oh, and what a blast it has been, sealing bloodlines and combining them into each other. Orochimaru-sama's been absolutely delighted with my experiments so far. Although, his little obsession with the Yellow Dragon legend has, regretfully kept me from the Byakugan of dear little Hanabi-chan. Still, with the primary summoner of the White Tigers before me, perhaps I'll get to have my fun with little Hanabi-chan after all. "Not before I rip your slimy balls off and suffocate you with them," Naruto growled, flaring demonic chakra and killing intent towards Kabuto, but the gray-haired traitor just stood there, laughing and basking in the hatred directed at him. Naruto had rushed forward, intent on taking Kabuto's life right then and there, when his fist was stopped by a barrier, just inches from Kabuto's smirking face. "TSK, such a rude demeanor," Kabuto sighed. "You're all honored guests after all, and this is the reception you give me? If you think a silly little barrier is going to hold us, then you really are an idiot," Naruto asserted. "Well, to play a game of Fuinjutsu with an Uzumaki certainly would make me an idiot now, won't it?" Kabuto shrugged. "That barrier's not really meant to keep you in there forever. No, just to keep you from bringing the house down before Orochimaru could deliver his welcome guests their presents." Naruto wasn't buying it. Nobody was. But alas, you see, we came across a little gem on Anko's team. Such an unexpected surprise, really, so Orochimaru sends his apologies that he himself cannot welcome you and deliver to you with his warmest regards, his gifts, Kabuto explained, and with a snap of the finger, 3 coffins rose up in the center of the room, causing Naruto to turn and face the impending Edo Tensei with Hinata and Sasuke. "Again, you really think the Edo Tensei concerns me?" Naruto replied. "All I gotta do is seal them up and they're as good as beaten." "Yes, perhaps, an annoying weakness of this jutsu indeed," Kabuto resigned. "But, why don't we put your Fuinjutsu skills to a real test now, shall we? Besides, these 3 have waited so long just to see you. Now, I need to go and see about a minor setback." You see, in all his excitement, Orochimaru-sama forgot to get poor Sakura a gift. "The 3 of you enjoy." And with that, Kabuto walked around the outside of the barrier towards the room where Sakura was seeing to Hanabi, all the while the lids on the 3 coffins fell to the floor. Naruto, Sasuke, and Hinata stared into the darkness, ready to handle whatever it was Kabuto and Orochimaru had thrown at them. But as the revived people stepped out of the coffins, only the clanging of Naruto's sword against the cold stone floor broke the silence that ensued. Until finally, that silence was broken by a single word, uttered simultaneously from the mouths of Naruto, Sasuke, and Hinata. "Kasan." That's it for this video. I hope you all enjoyed the video. Don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and follow me on my other social media accounts. Anime God here, and I'm signing off.